G'day, folks. It is the coach, and I am here with some absolute legends of the community. I'm so excited that I get the hot scoop. I feel like a legit interviewer right now, bringing basically like the Power Rangers, or bringing together like Captain Planet, the gentleman with the finest rings in battle reports, and bringing them together to talk about all things Rerolling Ones, all things battle reports, and hearing about the amazing journey that they've had. So if you're thinking about building battle reports, if you're already doing battle reports, if you're enjoying Rerolling Ones, I think you are going to be really excited to look at Shuey's head. But more importantly, here we go. We have Jack, Shu, and Brent. G'day. How are we all?
Doing well.
Doing really good.
I'll do the rotating questions already. Brent, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
And Jack?
Work's been crazy. I'm a delivery driver. I work for UPS, and during these crazy times, money's nice, but you kind of, I'm nice. They let me off early because I was like, I have this big interview online. You know, you don't go in the details. You're just saying, oh, this guy in Australia is going to interview me, so I need to get off work early. And they're like, oh, this is cool. But like, I usually hide my my nerd shame and don't tell everybody exactly what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm doing great.
I just walk around the office telling people I'm an influencer. I just don't have to kind of show my boobs and my butt. And there will be a time where hard times will hit and I will have to get an OnlyFans account. Shu, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm working from home and I work in technology, so it's one of those things where the weekend is pretty much just like any other day, but I don't work. I do the same thing. Like nothing changes in my life. So I
literally for me, there is like weekend and there's payday and then there's other days.
Yes, other days. That's a good way of putting it.
There are like, I said to my wife the other day, I'm like, can I have second Sunday? She's like, no, you have to go to work.
No.
And I'm like, but second Sunday.
It's the second one.
No, she said no. All right. This is a really random start. But today is all about Rerolling Ones. And I'm very, very, very fortunate to have these gentlemen on my channel. One, they are an amazing positive light in our community. They are generating just some amazing content when it comes to battle reports that are fun, that are informative, that bring a unique view to the world. They're just fun general characters. I'm a really big fan. I think you guys have some of the best battle reports. And what I want to learn from today is your story. I want to know the Rerolling Ones story, because I've come into this fully blind, and I'm thinking you guys are BFFs that started in primary school. You guys have known each other. You've grown up together, and that's why you're just all so comfortable and confident with each other. And you just happen to find each other in Age of Sigmar. So I want to know the Rerolling Ones story, and then I want to get into the meat and potatoes of how do you guys create battle reports? Now, I'm not talking about just like get out your phone and upload it to YouTube. There's some secret source that you're holding. So that's what I want out of today. But knowing these guys, they might throw some curlies at me. So I'm on my defense.
First shocking fact, Shu and I did not go to elementary school together.
Yeah, I think you're
going to say you didn't go to elementary school.
There might be like a 14-year gap there.
Brent came out of the womb with a beard and they're like, cool, you're in middle school already.
Like AOS brought us together. We didn't even know each other. Like it was, I met them through Doug from 2 Plus Tough. So I'll start with my kind of Warhammer journey. Who's that? That's Brent.
I live near your street. Sorry.
My older brother got me into Warhammer, and then I stopped playing about 2000, and then like 2017 he came up to me like, let's play Warhammer again, and we got into it, and Warhammer was completely different, and so I'm buying stuff to get into this game, Age of Sigmar, that we're like, okay, let's learn about it, and the internet kind of blew up between when I playing Warhammer in 2017. And you go online to try to research, you find Vince Ventrella and you find Doug from 2 Plus Tough. And he mentioned in one of his videos that he was from the Pacific Northwest. And so I contacted him and I was like, oh, let's play a game. And I beat the crap out of him because I assumed he was good and he's not. No. But he played. And then I was like, oh, cool. Because I couldn't find anybody to play with because it was like in 2017, this was a dead game. And then he's like, well, I have a friend and we can do Triumph and Treachery at his house. And Mark, being the benevolent human being, he's such a nice guy, invited 2 strangers he never met before into his house, met his lovely family. True story, I thought he was Mormon because he had so many kids and he was super nice. And I was like, oh, this guy's great. And his father, he's super nice, but he's definitely not Mormon. Okay. And we played Age of Sigmar, and now I'll throw it to Mark because this is actually his idea.
Yeah. So my last name is Shoemaker. I just go by Shoe. So it's a disambiguator. No problem. Mark's fine. But the idea is that I wanted to play Age of Sigmar because I saw the starter set. I had been away from Games Workshop hobby for like 20 years. And I saw this beautiful starter set with these crazy Stormcast dudes with these flags going everywhere and this guy and this freaking dragon pony. And I'm like, oh my God, these models are amazing. And my kid wanted to play. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy these miniatures. My brother had a game store at the time. And so he gave me the shop's starter set so I could paint it and get people to play. And that's how I met Doug. He was local to my brother's game store. So through Doug, I ended up meeting Jack. And, wanting to play Age of Sigmar, I had to go find players. And it started with no points, and it was really hard to get people to play with you. And I had the same thought, Jack had originally, where it's like, did I get into the wrong system at the wrong time? Maybe I had people like snub me, like straight up Warhammer Fantasy Battle, like fans go, ew, no, like they would gatekeep me. It was bad. But I set out to find a good group of guys that I enjoyed playing with, and actually. To remind you, Jack, the day that you came into my house, I was like harassing you on Messenger because I was so excited to get people to play. Like, come to my house, Jack, respond. And you're like, dude, I am working. So, yeah. So I actually met Doug first, and then I met Brent a little later. And Brent and I had a few games that were narrative. And our first game, we had like talked about it in Messenger, like, oh, okay, dude, we know that Durthu is still alive. Right? We know, but we don't know how the original Durthu died. So we'll have a narrative game where this is like the last stand of the original Durthu. So we stand up this Durthu, and he's protecting this little metal Alariel. And it turns out he died because 12 screamers charged him, and he died instantly. That was our narrative game. That's how I met Brent. And then he was in Triumph and Treachery game with Jack later on, and that's how that happened. Now, I know it might have been a little bit weirder because I'm an older guy, and Brent is like, why is this guy sending me messages on Messenger?
Yeah, but that's the thing is, yeah, like we all alluded to, like it was kind of hard to find people to play with. And like, so I started Warhammer when I was 13. I played Fantasy Battle up until it exploded, and then continued into Age of Sigmar, but kind of everybody else that I played with just eventually dropped off. And then didn't have anybody to play with. So a strange man contacting me online to be like, do you want to play Warhammer? I was like, yes, I do. And I feel like so that game he's talking about, that first game was like, hi, we met, we became friends, but it was also like the precedent for all of our future games, because like, what is the thing that we remember is like, Shu has this big terrifying tree man, and then I just send screamers into it and it gets torn apart and the game quickly collapses. But like, that's been basically all of our games, is that something stupid or ridiculous happens. And yeah, I think that that established how Brent and Shu games go.
Yeah, that's probably what I've enjoyed the most, is that you guys bring a fun element to the game. You've got a whole range of different versions of battle reports, whether you've got, the mini wargaming, you've got, the honest wargamer, who do go a very competitive route. You got people who like Doom and Darkness film their battle reports from their kitchen table and just do like these little short stories. But you guys just bring this completely fun element. And I'll never forget the moment that you guys did like a pseudo Seraphon battle report. And you guys, I remember it was at the start or the end, your wrap-up was basically going into Games Workshop searching for salamanders to see how many you could buy. Like, that was just like absolutely amen. Like, some people just whinge and go, they're broken, but you guys like, oh. Like,
I will buy as many as they have.
You guys were telling the story without actually saying like a massive whinge about them being broken.
Mhm.
And that was
Yeah,
like,
so like we recorded that skit after we played the game because we went into it being like, oh, cool, we got to borrow some salamanders. Let's see what these do. And then in the end, we're like, so those were really gross, right? And we're like, yes. So let's
it was
make a
actually
skit about
But it was
that.
actually fun, and we got the point. We got the point. I think that's the thing that I enjoy the most is the
Mhm.
positive vibe that you come. And at the end of the day, Age of Sigmar is a hobby. Is not my job. It never will be my job. It doesn't pay enough, so I want to have fun with my hobby, and I want to watch things that are fun. And I want to get away from the negativity of the world and the crap and all that. And you guys just bring that to the table, and for 1 hour to 2 hours, allow me to release and just enjoy a battle. And I think that's what I enjoy the most. And I imagine, your wide group of supporters on the interwebs feel the same way.
Yeah, I think we try to like come across that we're having fun playing the game. Like we're playing the game, we're enjoying ourselves. And that Seraphon sketch, like it was like, because we were discussing like what these things are amazing, but we also like we never want to be a voice of authority telling people this is garbage, this is because if you say something's garbage, that could be somebody's favorite unit. And now you're telling somebody and they like you. They're like, oh man, I like these guys, but they don't like the thing I like. And so saying something is trash or something we try to steer away from. Like I always think like it got rules, don't it? Then it's like the term non-playable is something I'm like, it has rules. Like like
Unplayable.
and Brent, the team like curating a game. They came up with that. They told me that, and I'm like, that is perfect because I am definitely the most competitive player. I went to LVO, I went to Nova. I pat myself on the back. 22nd ITC player last year. I'm a competitive guy. I win tournaments and stuff like that. But tournament games can be very unfun. Age of Sigmar can be unfun. Like when you're like, oh, that's a nice Gordrak. You paint. Oh, you spent hours painting that, right? Like turn one, I got my long strikes. He's not going to live. I'm sorry.
I got to take him off the table now. See ya.
Spoiler: we didn't paint our Gordrak though.
Yeah, you have to get mindset where like competitive play and like going to in like garage play or just having fun with your friends. And so we try to do with our channel is like curate a game. And like, all right, and you can look like sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes like, ooh, I think competitive Jack got in there a little too much. And yeah, I'm sorry. That's how smashing and bashing works, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't ever go as far as to say like we don't sit down and say, okay, you're gonna win this one, I'm gonna win this one. It's more along the lines of like around turn 3, we'll identify that the game is over, and we might change course to make it more interesting, or to throw something in there that will be enjoyable to watch. And we like to aim for those upsets where we can. We don't synthesize them, but like. There are times where we're like, it'll be better YouTube if we just go for it. Like I'm just gonna send everything in now. Charge, yeah. This game's over, but we're gonna play it out. There's a couple times we've called it, but we like to make sure that we're, doing something that's entertaining, at least for us.
You guys are storytellers. At the heart of what you do, you are storytellers. And I think that's what I enjoy the most is that it's a combination of a competitive game, and it is a competitive game. You guys aren't running fluffy little lists like I'm going to run, 1 million zombies. And obviously you guys could do an amazing battle if you did that. But you are running what is considered a competitive event, as a competitive list. And you're telling a story around it because you're right. A competitive, I'm going to smash you as quick as possible. A game will end in 1 to 2 rounds. Most of the time, half the battle is dictated from deployment, and then the first 2 rounds, 3 rounds at most, you kind of know who's going to win. Sometimes there's the swing in turn 4 to turn 5, but usually turn 3 is a pivotal moment. We could almost call it, but that's not entertaining. That if I was watching a Honest Wargamer live stream at Bloodshed in the Shy, for example, or I was watching a Warhammer television report of, Facehammer, cool. I'm watching that live and I'm watching, almost like live sports where I'm watching the play-by-play. but you guys are bringing something completely different to the table, and I think that's what's the most enjoyable part. And you guys bring your character, you bring storytelling, you guys have fun, you bring in your partners in, you do these fun little sketches, and that someone's going to catch me in the end. But and I can see in the chat's on fire. They absolutely love you guys, and you bring something different to the table, and I think that's why so many people love Rerolling Ones.
So we're like the Globetrotters, as opposed to India. Just like,
Can anyone do the song?
Look, I've been watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. I almost said Michael Jackson. I almost might said Michael Jackson.
The Last Dance with Michael Jackson.
That could be
that changes that story. It changes it.
Other like behind the scenes too. A lot of times, like armies that we wind up playing is kind of, it's what we have, what's on the shelf. Like I'm always borrowing stuff from Shu or Jack, and so it's kind of like work with what you got. Because I don't feel like we get a lot of these comments, but I've seen a few where a comment is like, "Oh, you should have taken Archon instead of Neferata," and I was like, "Well, yeah, maybe, but we don't have Archon, so it's like we'd have to paint him up too." So it's like we kind of just go with what we got, and I think that helps like naturally tone down the list to more of a like, let's see what happens, rather than like, are you ready to see my army list kill you? Like it's kind of hard to do that with a lot of armies if you just kind of, the term Jack uses is hodgepodge, and sometimes I'm like, hey, I worked on this army list, and Jack's like, that's just hodgepodge, but he's right.
Yeah.
So how did you guys? Oh, sorry, was that?
I was about to say, I think it was me. Actually, I'd take credit for the calling hodgepodge, and Brent's like,
well, you've done that too.
yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, you're like hodgepodge Seraphon list, and I was like, but I thought yeah. So in my mind, I'm putting in some effort, but
I think when you guys go to tournaments or if you go to any events, you should label your lists as hodgepodge. My co-host Liam is super competitive, and when he goes in like full competitive mode, like I'm not even going to apologize for bringing the filth. He'll put on his list #sorry not sorry, and you know he's going in there with like the absolute most brokenest filth. But if you're doing something completely different, maybe it's like the #modgepodge.
I'm only going to comment here. It's because they have painted armies, Brent. You paint like Jack and I, real slow. Very true. Very true. Hey, this guy.
Don't put me in the same category.
I'm just saying, one Bone Reaper. Let's see if I get to 2 or maybe 3. Who knows?
Like it's. I think like each of us brings something different to the table. That's what I really enjoy about our dynamic, and it's like we're different, but it's like we're a gumbo. You put all these things together, and it tastes delicious. Like Shu has a different sense of humor than I do, and he's gone. And so
he thought that was funny. We didn't.
You completely insulted him.
But it's like I've never I come from a background of stand-up, just like Shu did improv, but like I've never worked collaboratively on this is like going kind of talking about the sketches. Being collaborative on humor is something I had never done before, and it was interesting in the beginning because Brent, now he's up there. Brent is the guy who kind of started the funny sketches, and then it just snowballed. But my favorite sketches are the ones where we each add a little bit of seasoning to it. And this one I've never talked to Shu about, but I've been drinking. I came up with a sketch idea, and Shu edits everything. And I realized, I shot it. It was my idea. I edited it myself, and then I sent it to him, and he re-edited it. And I had never had that happen before because I'm like, it's done. And then the product that came out wasn't no, you took something out that I wanted in there, and you did something. And I'm like, I can't. It's collaborative. You can't be so precious with your thing where I'm like, okay, and I trust his editing ability, and he probably it's too long. We have to cut some stuff. We have to cut fat. And I was like, I was upset, but then I'm like, I I enjoy Shu more than I do this sketch. And so I trust his editing. So I'm like, but he made it less funny. I know I'm funny. That was great, but it was too long. It was over 2 minutes, and we tried to keep it like a minute and a half. But I was like, but I want every single joke in there. But it's like we're not a joke channel. We're also an Age of Sigmar channel, and we need to get it in there. So.
No, I love it. I see a lot of myself in you guys, and you're probably like, no, you don't. But hear me out, crew, hear me out.
We look the same, so I agree.
Ready.
Yeah, well, now the beards, the ISO beards are up level. But why I really resonated with you guys, and I've never told you this, so this might be a surprise to the viewers, is that I have a useless university degree, and that is I have a degree in theatre. So I went to university to do theatre. So I did do communications in English and all that other stuff. And I should have continued to be a drama teacher, but I decided not to. And I got into sales and marketing, and now I'm a consultant. But my specialty when I was in university, and to this day is my absolute favorite, is I did a lot of improv theatre. I would get up with my mates, and we had like a little improv crew, and we would do I had this absolute passion with a Italian theatre style called Commedia dell'arte, which is all about these couple of characters, and there was almost no script, and you just kind of role played and you bounced off each other, and it was all about trust. It was all about putting something in the circle and then allowing someone to respond and just going with the flow. And I think that's where you guys do the same thing, where you have 3 characters, you all bring something different to the table, and you just work so harmoniously with each other, and you just put out this outstanding product. And I'm not here to like speak 2 hours and just kind of tell you guys how amazing you are. You already know that. But it's just nice to kind of see it all coming together. And if you are watching this and you are either building a battle report channel, or if you are thinking about doing it, thinking about your cast, thinking about your characters, thinking about the team, and letting people play to their strengths. I think that's a brilliant thing, and trust.
Yeah. Advice to anybody building one, like consistency is a huge thing. And also I think we struck at a perfect time. Like the market was pretty empty.
When no one played. No.
Yeah, not a lot of people played. It was just mini wargaming. And like, I'll say it, like, we're big fans of mini wargaming. We copy their style in the beginning. Like, we watch one of their videos. How do you film a battle report? But there's part of it where it's Coca-Cola. It's the big thing. And it's easy to hate the big thing. Those guys are talented. They do work. But you're always going to get flack by a certain segment of people when you're number one. And they've done things like, question about, like, talk about Age of Sigmar and stuff that people might not agree with, and that causes flack, but they still do a really good job. And I know, and so like consistency is a big thing, which, we are coming from a long hiatus just because the current, world situation, we can't really get together and film battle reports. But advice would be consistency. This is my opinion here. Battle reports are more geared towards newer players, because once you get to a certain level, I know I stopped watching battle reports because I play a lot of tournaments, I play a lot of games, and it's like you don't need to watch them as much anymore, because you're trying to learn the game, so you're trying to learn armies and stuff like that. If there's a new army like the Seraphon, I watch a bunch of Seraphon battle reports because I want to know what they did. That's our biggest video, is a Seraphon battle report. And so consistency, newer players don't really like competitive stuff. Like Matt from Mini Wargaming has said this, like this is like shooting. People hate shooting. I love shooting, but shooting doesn't interact with 2 people. Shooting is just pull that up, pick that up, pick that up. So I've had a list where I'm like, I can't take this stuff because it's too much shooting. Like, the shootcast videos I have, lots of dislikes, lots of screw Stormcast and all this stuff. And it's like, if you want to, I don't know, we don't chase views, but don't get discouraged if you have a video with lots of shooting and it's really competitive and people don't enjoy it.
All right, that goes back to like curating videos. Like, if your goal is probably to entertain the most amount of people wanting to watch an Age of Sigmar video, like, you probably want to try and build a more balanced game. But like, also, if you wanted to make a channel that was showing, like a more competitive aspect of the game, then you probably would want to include videos like that. Also just wanted to throw in too, since we talked about the intros and you kind of talked about, maybe some people's perceptions of mini wargaming. Like another reason like we liked doing the intros is that like it does set a tone before the video. It's like, okay, these guys are goofing off, so there's some expectation as to like what the game is probably going to be, a little bit after that. And I think, that is helping set up that if you're probably not always going to get a super competitive game, you are maybe going to get to see some models that like you typically wouldn't see. And hopefully, everybody's going to be looking like they're having fun in the game. I think that's like another purpose of doing the intros. I'm not saying like, if you want to do a battle report channel like us, you should do intros too. No, but it's like a point to establish some sort of tone of like, what is your style of game?
I think that's critical. If and this comes back to my marketing world, and that is, defining your target audience. Now, battle reports are going to be enjoyed by lots of people. So thinking about who your target market is, and AOS Coach, my channel is no different. I think about my target market, and if you're developing battle reports because you are just wanting to showcase your local games club, cool. So your target market is local. Your target market could be Australian or America, wherever you reside, and it might be more about getting the quickest battle report on the table. So it might be just the technology and just filming what you see. On the flip side, you've got your and this is where, and I'm not going to bag any bat rep channel. I think anyone who does a battle report channel has a very hard job, because and I want to come to this question in a minute, is that the comment section can be brutal. You look at people like The Honest Wargamer, Mini Wargaming, any big scale battle reports, and inevitably you get rules wrong. We all get rules wrong. It happens all the time. Yet on battle reports, because for some reason on the internet, you say something once, it's like you are the worst human in the world, and it is an absolute witch hunt because your model should have been hitting on 4 instead of 3s, or you forgot to put a token here and you thought it was there, and there's a witch hunt. And Mini Wargaming cop it a lot, but there are other channels that cop it just as much. But like
when people tell us like guys, I really respect. Like I respect him enough to forget his name. Joe. That's not his real name though. Halo Twitch. Yes. Like he'll say like, "Oh, you guys are good." I'm like, we get stuff wrong too. And for when people point us out, I'm like, is that because we're not Mini Wargaming? Because we try to get everything right, and I kick myself.
We get stuff wrong in every one.
I can't believe it, but I do. We get like, we've built up a lot of equity, and like people are like, oh, it's okay. But I'm like, we definitely don't want to get stuff wrong. And you're speaking about the comment section, man. Like, so if you go see season, like when we first started Path to Glory, and like it was a rough year for me, but when I knew I was gaining weight, but when people in the comments started pointing it out, I was like, all right, I need to start losing weight because they're noticing. So, like, since the pandemic, I'm down 30 pounds. I'm getting back in shape because I'm like, I want to read the comments again, but I want to see like, damn, Jack is looking thick. And I'm like,
damn it.
Yeah, rules issues are one thing, but yeah, there's some other colorful comments that pop up. Surprisingly, and this is sort of then like our inside joke too, of there's been some comments about like pronunciations of units, and there's some that's like, okay, that's a real word, like sure. But then there's some that have been like purely fictional Warhammer characters. So like that's like, yeah, Caradron, like that's definitely where
I got pinged the other day. I got pinged the other day when I was doing a Age of Sigmar report, and someone said that I didn't do. So you've got your little homie, right, that goes with your general. He's called an adjutant or an adjutant. And I think I said one version, and then someone pulled me up, and they were very polite, by the way. It wasn't a witch hunt. They're like, oh, it's pronounced this way. But then someone else goes, actually, I'm from the Navy, and this is how we say it. And I'm like, look, I appreciate and thank you guys for calling me out. And, I'd like to think that I accept constructive criticism and feedback, and I'm always trying to improve. but there's also like that tolerance, right? Is that we are going to get things wrong, and I hope that you forgive us, because otherwise, my next book review, I will sit here and I'll go, sorry guys, you guys have to wait for a second. And I'll read the rules, and like that is not entertaining, and that's not interesting. And I'd like to think that we all get out most of our rules right, and there will be slip ups. And leave a comment in the comment section below and give us a bit of an update on what we did wrong. But put the torches away. You don't need to start a witch hunt. And
I noticed
99 point. Oh, sorry, please go.
I know that this is like a growing game, and so stuff changes. Like, my brother was really good at AOS 1.0. He had everything down, and so that's what he remembers. That's what's in his brain, and so he'll try to do stuff like, oh, you can't do that anymore. But it's just like, this is a growing game, and you have to be on top of it. Like, competitive season, like from 2018, 2019, I was kicking butt, and I took a month and a half off. And I went 1-2, 1-2, and I'm like, hey, no, I usually win these things, but you're not used to oh, there's a new army, there's a new rule, there's a new stuff like this, and there's oh, I am not rare. Is that a 3D printed thing?
My mug. No, this was a gifted. It's wooden.
That's amazing.
It's wooden. It's got my name engraved. It was actually given to me by one of my closest friends for being a groomsman. So
is your friend a dwarf?
Distracted easily.
It is very Dwight, and my name is engraved there with it's a Game of Thrones mug essentially.
I drink it.
Anyway, but yeah. So again, but people are very not, especially when you meet people. That's why I was really bummed out about Adepticon, because I felt Shu in particular needed Adepticon, and Brent to a lesser extent. They both needed Adepticon, because I've been to LVO, I've been to Nova, I've been to events, I go to tournaments, and I get to feel how much people appreciate us. When you feel that tactile, you meet people face to face, and I met people at Nova. They're like, "Where's Shu? Is Shu here?" There's shoe guys out there who and she was like, there's not shoe guys. I'm like, there are people who don't give a crap about me. I'm like, where's shoe guys? Is he here? Is he? And I'm like, sorry. So I was like, and there's Brent guys. There's 3, but no.
it's Adepticon. At any con, you could just go, oh, Shu's right over there. He's the fat white guy with no hair and a beard.
And that was one.
Which one?
One of the coolest things going to Nova and meeting people who dig what you do. I made great friends, Sean Blake, Mike Davis up in Canada, both guys in Canada, and they were just fans of the channel. I met them online, and then I'm like, we just chat. I play Total War with Mike 3 times a week, and it's just people I met online who dig what you do, and hey, I appreciate you, and then you're like, I appreciate the love you're giving me. That's why I love going out and meeting people who appreciate, and they'll say inside jokes that you say online. I'm like, oh, you got that too, and it's just stand alone. That was organic, and it's a catchphrase that I do, and I'm like, and people yelling at me across the hall at Nova, and I'm just like, that's amazing, and this community is really, really great, and that's what I just appreciate.
Yeah. Did you ever think you'd have a 90s catchphrase? You do now. So you just walk through the room, stands alone.
When you made it when you got a catchphrase.
I have to dive in on something real quick. When we first started, I was telling Brent my friend Doug has this YouTube channel. He's doing really well with it, and I want to make a YouTube channel too where I film battle reports. And I showed him this battle report channel I just loved. I was absolutely in love with this channel. It's called Tabletop Minis. It's these 2 Scottish guys, and they're brothers. They have the most polite and nice Warhammer you've ever seen in your life, and everything's so clean and well painted minis. I think they're both Golden Demon winners or something ridiculous like that. They do commission painting now, and they just had these great fun looking games. And I was like, I want to be like them, but I want to get all the rules right. I want to be the one channel that just nails everything. And Brent's like, yeah, let's do it, dude. And then that went directly out the window.
Game one is I forgot all of I can't even remember the name of it. What's the stupid Blight King rule that you have to like roll a 6 to do anything with?
The
name is
the
great.
squirt. Yeah, they squirt onto each other and heal.
I can't remember.
I don't remember. Some kind of
the six up hit the squirt rule. Let's
yeah,
just go to
the
the squirt
succulent
rule.
garbage.
The chat will tell us eventually that we got it wrong. They will. They'll tell us.
I was about to lose it when I saw the comment just says it's pronounced Caradron.
I take the piss out of Mr. Mephisto all the time with his Nagash. But like people take the piss out of me, like when I was explaining some of the mortal realms. I think I said I think once I said like act squishy instead of like actually, and like I never live it down. Like people always talking about like act squishy. I'm like, shut up. You're in a fantasy world. Like, chill out, guys.
I did find. So the special rule is Virulent Discharge.
Yeah, to look it up.
The best name of a special rule or an ability, like in the game, but
I love Mephisto. You'll text him like, "Hey man, how you doing?" And you just get plap this wall of text. I'm like, "Oh, I get all that from like, what's up, man?" Look,
Nagash has the great black pyramid. He has the great wall of text. But we content creators, we love each other. We're all good friends. But I want to just go back on a slight point because I've had some. Actually, it's almost like a two-part question. This comes from Rocco, the second part of the question. John Rocco asked a question that I want to bring up. But I know that when I've been at tournaments, I never forget a story that Liam, again, my co-host, he was talking to a person at a tournament while I was playing. I was playing Gits versus a Corn at the time. And I remember Liam telling me about an experience where someone wanted to come up to me. It's actually happened a few times where they're talking to him, like acknowledging me as the coach, like, "Oh, it's the coach. I want to go talk to him, but I'm nervous, so I don't want to speak to him like I'm some internet celebrity or whatever, right?" And like Liam's like, "Go talk, go introduce yourself." And I know there's a lot of hesitation in the community because if they do see someone notable, whether it's Doug 2+ Tough, Vince Venturelli, yourselves, there's that hesitation of I'm annoying that person, I'm looking like a fan person. At the same time, I'm hearing Jack, people coming up and approaching you. It's heartwarming to be acknowledged, and it's not about fanboying or girling. It's about you like my work. Thank you very much. Thanks for the support. I want to shake your hand when we can. And just appreciate your support because you've helped us kind of grow our channel. So what is your thoughts when it comes to people approaching you, whether it's online, whether it's face-to-face around just their appreciation?
It definitely, I think it felt when I met face-to-face, it recharges my batteries. I'm like, okay, this isn't for like, this is, it's a good feeling. It's like, there's a reason people like do nice things, not saying it's the only reason, but like you get this charge, you get this energy, this positive energy, and you vibe off of it. And like, I'm a performer, and that was one of the exhausting things, trying to be just leave a good impression. Like, okay, I met Jack from Rerolling Ones, and he was awesome, and we had a great time. And I at that Nova last year, like I'm gonna gush about it because just how fun it was. But you're out till 4 trying to get games in and please everybody. It can be exhausting, but I'll die. I'll sleep later. But it's I enjoy it. It's and so that when I said like I felt Shu and Brent needed a Deprecaun because it can be like, all right, we got to get a video out. All right, can you think of anything? Can you think of a sketch?
Yeah,
I can't. I don't know. What if we have like a flying saucer come over and you're just trying to come up with something and you're just like, all right, we need a game. Like, what have we played? Oh, Iron Jaws. And so it can be like, oh, we need to get content out. But when you get to, it can be worth it when you're like, oh, people love it, rather than it's like, oh, people only watch 20% of the video and then skip to the end. It's like, we is it worth it? We're like, not this one didn't get as many views as the last time. But when you meet people, I'm like, oh man, and they get little things you said when you rolled 3 6s. Can you remember that? He's like, I do remember that, and I can't believe you remember that. Or a guy named Ben from Nova, he shared this with me, and hopefully he doesn't mind me sharing it. He had a doctor scare. They found some stuff they needed to test, and he was this is downtime in his life, and he was like the first laugh I had was listening to one of your battle reports. I started laughing, and it was like it helped me get that. I was like, oh, I can't quit. I mean, times now because I'd say Age of Sigmar can be unfun, and it's like it can be like, oh man, and then you're like, okay, but people are complaining about we have the same models. Hey, we're slow painters sometimes, except for this guy, and it's like, but you shift out those 5% negative comments or 2% and appreciate the 98%, and you're just like, oh. I'm going to keep doing this until the wheels fall off, until she would be like, dude, I have 5 kids now. What do you, I can't, I can't edit videos anymore. And so that's my feeling on it.
Yeah.
Moments of burnout are natural. Like if you're just doing something consistently. So even if, for a while, like we were doing them weekly, like we were consistent, but I think just doing anything like that, then there's going to be moments of like, this is really fun. This is not as fun, but yeah, like I think positive comments are probably like 99.5%. And those are all really encouraging for me. Like since I haven't been to any of these conventions, I haven't got to meet anybody face to face. Just seeing that though, and like talking to people online. Yeah, like it's very encouraging. It's very fun.
So the 2 call outs that I'll make here, and then I'll go to because I haven't asked Rocco's question yet, so I'll get to Rocco's question in a second because that was my part. So the 2 call outs that I want to make here for the viewers is one, the interaction is welcome. Please approach. If you see someone, and whether it's someone you just follow and they don't create content, maybe they're just someone on Twitter or Instagram, and you've seen their hobby and you really enjoy them, or you recognize a name. Don't ever be scared, or don't always hesitate. Go say hello. If nothing more, and have an excuse maybe to leave. It's like, if you're a bit nervous, you don't want to go there too long. Just like, hi, Brent, I love your work. I've seen your hobby. I really enjoy your videos. Thank you very much. Look, I've got to go. I've got to meet some friends. I just want to say hello. If that's someone that you're quite nervous, and we appreciate it, and we might not be able to. I love you guys. You guys are hilarious. Here I am trying to like bring the coaching moment, and you guys are just taking the piss. So that's one thing. Please don't ever not do that. But the other thing as well, and again, John Rocco does this, and I truly appreciate it, is nothing excites me when I see a bunch of likes and a bunch of comments. So if you are enjoying someone's content, whether it's Rerolling Ones, whether it's myself, whether it's Warhammer Weekly, whether it's Cinder4 Gaming, whether it's Doom and Darkness, make sure if you've enjoyed something, you leave a comment and you hit like, because that does mean a lot for us. So it kind of makes us feel good that the amount of effort that we're putting into our video, our blog, our whatever we create is worthwhile. So that would be my call out here.
If you do try and approach us, though, you got to make sure that it's actually Shoe and it's not just somebody.
Not one of the many shoes. That's something we don't do well at all. Like it's like call to actions like that, because I know when I listen to a lot of content when I'm at work, podcasts and everything, and I know what it sounds like when I hear somebody saying, "I have a Patreon. Hey, like, it seems sincere. Like and subscribe." And so we've never like, hey, video if you can share it. We've maybe done it 10 times total, and there's like, oh, I know what it sounds like, but like we could use a Patreon. There's things like, oh, we want to grow the channel. Like, we fumbled through like December. Like we bought so many things. We bought a new camera. We bought a new sound system. We're gonna do it, and it just. We're very busy men. We each have jobs, we have kids, we do stuff, and we're just like, we had to scrap like 3 battle reports because the camera didn't work or the new sound didn't work. I was looking at it, I was like, we can do better than that. Like I videotaped it, I'm like, dang, it's so shaky. And there's things we want to get better at, but it was still entertaining. And so there's still the jokes. Carrie was a great guest. She was super positive. And she's a local player. She's a great player, and it's like to get a different voice, out there. That was we wanted to get that game out there. Even though I was like, Brent is the best cameraman by far. I'm the worst, and Shu is better than me. And so it's like trying to get good at other things rather than just like, it's growing pains. 2 years in, season 1's coming up. We're trying to level up. We're trying to get better, and it's.
So let me get to the actual Rocco question. No, I'm loving all this like celebrity heads. I'm going to get to Rocco's real question because I think we're starting to dance around the actual like meat and potatoes. That is the battle report. So I'm going to get that to him a second. I'm loving this. I told you I was in the improv theater. So the Rocco question, which I think is relevant, just on the topic, is what is the weirdest interaction you've had with a fan on the channel, whether it's digitally or whether it's in person? Don't call out any names, but have you had any? I'll start the party. I'll start. I have had a number of people tell me that they watch my content, which is very flattering, but then they tell me that their wives really enjoy watching as well because of my accent or my beard. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right.
You do have a really
game, buddy.
The designs and stuff. I'm going to paint a dwarf that looks just like you, that has gray coming down with the blacks and white. Okay,
I'm not going to name names, but like long story short, I've had a bunch of people call out and say that they, especially like, it's American women who supposedly really enjoy my accent or what I do. I'm like, oh, okay, right. But no one threw themselves at me at Adepticon. So
and so it's
maybe they'll get nervous. So like next time, feel free to like swoon. Hopefully my wife doesn't watch this.
Interaction with the fan, like public wars are kind of like, I don't like that. And I met a fan at a convention, and like he wawed really loud too close to me, and I'm like, I don't like that. I'm like a loud guy, but just something about wawing real loud when there's tons of people. I'm like,
I grew up in a Games Workshop in the early 2000s. I am pro wah.
I like, you know, like, I'm like, it takes a lot to embarrass me, but I'm like, don't do that next to me, man, because everybody's looking over here. Like I did it. Like you go over there, a wall. But he's a great guy.
Jack's anti-wag, Brent's pro-wag.
It's interesting. Like you mentioned about if you just come up and say hi. He was somebody because like you can tell. I could tell. Like he kept looking over, and I could tell. Okay, he's a fan of the channel, something. And I'm like, I'll approach. I don't care. But then he was. So I'm like, all right. But I'm like, I'll go up like, hey, what's up, dude? And like, then that gives the open. Boom. Oh my gosh. I play, Shootcast too. That's a really weird thing though. Side note, having so many Shootcast babies because I did that on some battle reports. And like, oh, you inspired me. The guy who got like 8th at LVO. He was like, oh, you inspired me to make this list, but he's like, the math didn't work out on this, so I did this, and I don't even think that way. But he's like, I made the list better doing this, and I'm like, that's amazing, and just because I like shooting stuff, and so
as a father, you're meant to pave the way for your children and make a better life, right? So you've created the Shootcast list, and your babies have like grown up in the benefits, and are like, oh, I can do it better than my dad, and like I'm gonna make him proud.
Great. All right, so shoot. Who's next?
Okay. Shoot. Let's do shoot. I'll do shoot.
So we went over a lot of ground there. What was the question, Rocco?
Basically, have you had any weird fan interactions?
Oh, weird fan. Okay. So I've been recognized exactly once, and that was the day we were filming the little Christmas gift exchange. And the dude was just super modest and very nice, and didn't want to say much. And he's like, I recognize it, you guys, and I like what you do and that kind of thing. It was really good to hear from someone who's like, oh, okay, cool. For me, the number of subscribers we have is just like an abstraction. It's almost like it's not real, right? It doesn't feel real, like a real huge number of people when it actually like, wow, that's a lot of people, and I'm honored by that. But like usually when like, so I'm a musician. I've been in bands before, and I've met bands that are famous. Some of them super famous. And usually when I meet people who are famous, they have like a little bit of like they're kind of like, you're talking to them, but they're looking over here. They're like, oh, okay. They're kind of listening to you, but not looking at you. They're not engaging because like that's super fame. I don't have that level by any stretch.
You're not Madonna. You're not Madonna yet.
No. But
I mean, 2 Plus Tough might be at Madonna level, but you guys are more like Rihanna.
He started that way. But like, there's something that clicks when somebody who's famous has they recognize that you're cool and you're not going to get weird on them. They like start to recognize you and engage with you a little bit, and you're like, oh, this person's just a person, and that's cool. I'm gonna aim to have that, not have that toggle. Does that make sense? So when I meet people, I'm aiming to not have that toggle. I'm gonna try to recognize people for who they are and that kind of thing. And in general, I wouldn't say I've had any weird interactions. The weirdest interaction I'd say would be the people who had said like super negative comments, and I just banned them. And when I banned them from commenting on the channel or blacked them out or whatever, they hit me up on Facebook with some ire, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, you brought it here. No, you're gone from here too. But it's, that's just like, community management stuff. You got to time out the bad actors. Some people just take it a little too far.
Another one before I throw it over to Brent is I always love walking around with my wife. Maybe it's at the shopping center or like the local street, and some people have actually approached and said, "Hey, coach," and she's like, "What the hell is going on?" Like, it's so weird because I there's people who recognize me. Like, do you know those people? I'm like, I don't think so. But it's a bit of fun. Like I tease her about being an influence. Like I influence literally nothing, but it's good fun to like lean into it and just have fun. Brent. Weirdest fan interaction, and then we're going to get into like, let's talk bat reps. This has been fun though.
I unfortunately don't have a story about an awkward fan meeting.
Don't let the truth ruin a good story. Make something up now.
Well, here's the thing: is then I can just tell you about a story, like an awkward experience playing in a Games Workshop in like 2003. Oh. Jack loves this story. Okay, this is just, so now we're going off on a tangent, but it'll be quick. So it's fine, if you're not good at the game. I'm really bad at the game now, but when we all played like as kids in the shop, there was one kid there and he lost every time. So everybody was trying to figure out like, who's going to be the first to lose to this guy? And nobody wanted to be the first person to like, oh, you finally lost to so-and-so, right? I'm just call him Jeff. His name wasn't Jeff, but anyway, I'm playing a game against him, and he was like, this is back in like fantasy when you had guess weapons, and he was like notoriously not accurate with his guess weapons. So like you'd start the game and you're like 26 inches away, and he'd be like, how about 12? And you'd be like, okay, so this game, like it's off to a good start. But then there's like this guy in a I don't know, older kind of guy in a trench coat, just like hanging out in the store. I just like sort of notice him. And so turn one, he's firing his mortar at my storm vermin. And I'm like 14 or 15, by the way. And he's like 14 inches. But then the guy with the trench coat, and also, by the way, we had like a challenge board. So this was like a league game where like I'm trying to move my way. Like if I beat him, I get a challenge token that then I can challenge up on the board. So it's like official play, right? And then like the guy in the trench coat walks behind him and he just goes 27 inches. And I was like I wouldn't get upset about this, but I was like, and then he changes his guess. He goes 27 inches. And I was like, excuse me, like we're playing like an official game. Can you not, like give him any advice? And he like turns, he goes and like looks at me like this and then just leaves. And nobody ever sees this guy again. And 27 inches is a perfect guess. Which looks like I didn't even know he was looking at the game, and he was just like, nope, that's how far it is. And then the mortar lands, and he like rolls the hit, and it's dead on, and it blows up all the storm vermin, and I fail the leadership test, and they run off the board. So before I've gone, I've lost like 30 storm vermin, and he's on the other side of the board, just like, look at all the rats running away. And I'm like, I'm going to be the first person to lose to him. Oh my God, who was that? And I rally and I win the game, but it starts off really rough. And so then later, so this is like a Games Workshop in a mall in a food court. And like my friends and I sitting around, we're just like, who was that guy? Like, why do you do that? And one of my friends just goes, I bet there was Jeff from the future. And that like his life would be dramatically different if he somehow won this game. And so he went back in time to tell his younger self to guess 27 inches and try and beat me in Warhammer. And it didn't work. So the future, like you hear about different timelines, it all leads to the same thing. You can't escape your fate.
This is like a sketch I want to do because he has some of the craziest like Warhammer stories. And I'm like, I just want to recreate these in a sketch, but it's like you gotta like cut out the fat and they're long and stuff. But this is just one of his many stories. Of like, oh, this
there
one
were so
time
many people that played back then. Like,
That's gonna be a
now
sketch.
everybody's cool, but
I cannot wait for that sketch, and I'm hearing that you guys and you are bringing a lot of your whole self to the table. It's not just you guys as players. You are bringing your life experiences, things outside, your passions. Hell, one of you brings your wife or your girlfriend. I'm not sure if it's wife or girlfriend or sister, but someone brings their family. It's wife.
It's my wife. Yeah.
Cool. All right, just making sure. I don't want to make any assumptions. Let's talk about battle reports, because I'm sure a lot of people are throwing in some questions into the chat, which has been awesome if they're watching live. So I'm going to throw a whole bunch of questions at you guys to give me some advice and give me some thoughts around how it all happens, right? So we've started filming battle reports. We've kind of talked a little bit about lists, and you've kind of, competitive match play lists aren't the driving force. And we've talked a little bit about the fact that you will think about the audience first and thinking about creating a great video as opposed to, just the absolute most cutthroat kind of video. But I want to go right back to the start, and I want to talk a little bit about the things that happen behind the scenes. And the first one that I think about and YouTubing in general, whether you create battle reports, you do what I'm doing, which is, talking on interviews, costs a lot of money to start. Is getting into battle reports an expensive activity, or do you find that you could start doing battle reports today? Like, even like, what was the first thing you guys started doing when you started creating battle reports? Like how? Like talk to me about the process. What's Jack doing? I think Jack's taking his pants off.
He's showing his collection. Like,
right. Okay. Is that all? Is that all?
you to reveal
the term the term studio army has definitely made me spend a lot of money. Oh no, this is I have a lot of stuff. I have like there's a channel called Blackjack Legacy. He talks about Age of Sigmar, but now he's branched out into other stuff. But when I first got into AOS, he was one of the few channels covering it. And I think recently he did something where he didn't spend for 6 months, he didn't spend money on Games Workshop stuff. And I'm like, I need to try that because I have 8,000 points of Cities of Sigmar. And I'm like, I need to paint it. And like, so I'm not picking up Realm Lords. Yeah. Maybe Brent can get it. But it's like it's a very expensive hobby. And so I saw the price hikes and I was like, well, an expensive hobby just got a little more expensive. It doesn't bother me because it's just it's pricey, and so yes.
I'll take this one a little bit here if you guys don't mind.
I'd love to know the technology first, and then we'll talk about armies, right? Because the challenge with armies is that it isn't expensive. I'm just gonna put my foot on mute, but technology.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. The tech behind it. So one of the reasons why we know Cranky Old Gamer is because he did battle reports for this game called Deep Wars and some other games, Horus Heresy and that kind of thing. I really admired his YouTube channel, and then I found out that he was local to me, and I just reached out to him and I said, "Tell me about the tech." And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm using a Galaxy S6, and I held it in my hand, and that's it. It's on my table in my house." And I'm like, "Wait, what? You don't have studio lights and all this other stuff?" And he's like, "No, it's just that." And then I use this ultra janky editing software called VideoPad. And so I went and I got an S6 and I got VideoPad, and that's literally where we started. We're still using VideoPad. It's pretty bad. Like, it's not great for editing a 2-hour. It's fine for things that are 10 minutes long, but it's not great for like a 2-hour video. So the big picture is like, if you want to get started in YouTube in general, you have to decide what your goal is. Are you trying to be informative? And if your goal is to be informative, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful in terms of subscribers or in terms of recognition, that kind of thing. You could have one super informative video about how to cook a salmon that gets hundreds of thousands or even millions of views, and you'll stand up with like 600 subscribers because people don't care about you. They just care about how you bake that salmon, right? So you could also go for something that is like, you could just fill your video full of memes with PewDiePie and SpongeBob, and it could be super popular, but you've just literally spewed nonsense out there. So like you got to figure out what your goal is. You're going to trying to turn your hobby into a hustle where you're making money. Are you trying to just get something out there to have fun with it? For me, the battle report is literally the hobby within the hobby, and it is. We haven't really articulated what we're trying to do with this because I'm sure Coach, like the AdSense revenue and the YouTube stuff is generally pretty low flow in terms of income. Usually, what happens for YouTubers that get a sense of popularity or they get some recognition, they start selling merch and engaging with Patreon and other stuff. So their YouTube content is now a free thing that sells other stuff. And that's why they push those things so much. I know times are hard, but if you love something, you should toss a coin to your Witcher, by all means. If you are tuning in a lot, you're like, you know what? Even if you're just going to subscribe to somebody for a little while, give them a little bit of money, then unsubscribe later, that's fine too. Like just, that's a good level of recognition, is to help people say, I really think you should keep doing this, and here's why. But that said, like, decide what your goal is. Don't dive in on what people hate. I saw a post the other day saying, I'm thinking about starting a channel about painting miniatures. What do you guys hate about miniature painting tutorials? And it was like a 99 post thread about all the things people hate about miniature painting channels. And somebody's like, I think somebody said something super nitpicky, like, this person's fingernails are gross. And I looked at the video, and it's just the shape of their fingernails, and they weren't like dirty. And I'm like, okay, this person is like not going to learn anything from these negative comments. What you got to do is figure out what people love, and if something like that inspires you, you tack into that and go. So, I mean, when it comes to the tech, use what you got. Start with a phone. It's a 1080p 60 frame per second camera for most phones made in the last 2 years. Start with your phone. Cameras are hungry for light. Make sure your audio is boosted in post. You can't get a really good microphone on a phone, so make sure you're in a quiet environment where you can be heard easily. You boost the audio in post, that way people can understand what everybody's saying. It sounds a little blown out, but as long as they can hear you, it's fine. I'd say audio is probably more important than video.
That is a fundamental lesson that I learned in my YouTubing career, and I will never forget the day that I did a faction focus on Beasts of Chaos with Joel McGrath, and his audio was rubbish. Sorry, Joel, I love you, but it turned out his audio was rubbish, and that is like the most aggressive comment section that I've got, because people are just attacking me nonstop about the audio levels. So to your point, the big lesson that I learned, and I did a whole bunch of research, is that audio is often more important than the video. People are more forgiving if you have average video and great audio than having really bad audio and good visuals, because people want to hear the dialogue. They want to hear what's going on. Well, they want to hear about the tactics. And I think for me, one of the things that I really enjoy from battle reports, and there's one particular battle report channel, it's a 40K battle report channel. It's called Play on Tabletop, and they talk about the tactics as well. And they'll take moments at the end of the turn to understand the why. It's like, why are you doing what you're doing? Oh, I was trying to pivot because I think I'm really concerned about this dreadnought, so I'm trying to move and try to pin the dreadnought before it's able to shoot at me.
Those guys are really good.
They're awesome, and they've spent a lot of money and time. And I want to come back to Shu for a second, because I'll be honest, man, guys, you are not going to get rich on YouTube. Whether you subscribe to Patreon or not, you're not making a lot of money, but it does cost a lot of money to do what we do, whether it's investing in the webcam, the boom microphone, even the mic stand, right? The software that I use. These are all expensive assets, but the first thing that I think I would agree, Shu, is that you don't have to have them at the start. You start with what you've got, which might just be your webcam on your laptop, could be the phone. You might go find a cheap gimbal or a tripod or like a little selfie stick. And then as you kind of grow, because one trap that I've seen, and guys correct me if I'm wrong, is that people go and spend all this money at the start and they don't use it. or they've learned over time that they actually needed something else. And instead of a boom mic, you actually might have needed like a little microphone that kind of, connects to your shirt and can capture in the game moments.
It happens to musicians a lot where they get this thing called GAS, which is gear acquirement syndrome, where you're just like, oh, I need this new FX pedal or whatever. And the next thing you know, you think it's going to make your game better, and it's not. What's going to make you better is playing lesser shows. And I can't just say, like, go do the thing and you're going to get better doing that thing. That's not exactly true either. You have to put some effort into the gear you have, but get something that is functional. It's going to get you past a quality bar you're comfortable with. And then you can go to, doing some real investment into tech later on. But you got to make sure that like that tech, the cost of the failure of that technology has to be worth what it's adding to you. So for us, we have these really great lapel systems, but they die after about an hour and a half. The batteries die on them. So it doesn't ding or anything. So when it fails, it just fails silently. And that's why we had 3 scrapped battle reports, is because audio just cuts out and we didn't know they were off. So yeah, it was really painful. And it's like, okay, well, we can set timers. So we started setting timers to make sure that at 45 minutes, we just swap batteries out. But that was just like, okay, well, the old phone, the sound is not that much better than what we were getting from the phone. So let's just go back to the phone. And I do want to get back to a place where we have an SLR. We're using these super nice optics and the really nice lapel mics, but it would literally require a third person to be filming and to be kind of project managing the tech of what's going on in order to do that. And we're not always filming together. Like usually it's just the 2 of us and we hand the camera back and forth. Sometimes we'll have Brent or I'll be there to film Brent and Jack, but it's not always the case.
Yeah, that was what Jack had referred to earlier, sort of like growing pains, was that we, for the longest time, had the gear that we started with. Yeah, which is like Galaxy S7, still using VideoPad, and then wanted to upgrade from there. But again, like start with what you have, which like Shu says, it's stuff most people have, just, like a phone, and then get a recording program, or a video program. But yeah, for us to improve on gear, we've had a lot of issues. Like we're still trying to work through that, but I think that does support too. Like if we had started with all of this gear that looks really good, and then like even now after doing this for a few years, like we still don't know how to make it work or make this new gear work. Like it's probably a good thing we didn't start with that gear, because that probably would have been very discouraging to get started at all. Is like, yeah, let's make battle reports, and then yeah, we're getting like weird interference on lapel mics, a lot of tough stuff to learn. So just go with what's easy and can get you started first.
Yeah, that's my advice. I couldn't agree more. Is just start what you've got, learn, and then you'll get a better understanding of what you need. I've still got my original webcam. So I was originally using my phone when I started making my first videos. Then I bought my Logitech C920, and I haven't touched it since. I bought my Blue Yeti microphone. I've still got it because I spent a bit of time on research. But otherwise, things have kind of grown over time. I bought like a softbox light. I bought, an additional monitor. I bought different things, but they weren't investments that I made it early. It was things like, what do I need? What can I do to improve? But throwing money isn't always the answer. But I think getting started is what I'm hearing, and tapping into the resources that you've already got.
Getting started is the hardest part, and sometimes it takes a good friend to shove you really hard.
If you look at the start date of Rerolling Ones, like when it was a channel, I think it says 2016, and we put out the first video in January 2018. So Shu had the channel for like almost 2 years before, and he kept talking about it. Again, probably, I don't know. Do you feel like you were dissuaded because you didn't feel like you had the right gear? You didn't feel like, we can like, let's just do it. Who cares?
The intro,
testing, and yeah.
Shu is the reason. He's the genius behind it. He came up with the name, and it's just like he had that intro, the dice, the Crowe. And it's just like it was his idea first, and we just like I'll latch onto it like a lamprey. You know, I'm gonna get on a shoe. And top.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you along, Dwight. Seriously. I wouldn't have a channel if it wasn't for the guys that are helping me do it. If it was just me, I'm not that appealing. So
Come on, man! You've done 2 shows in 24 hours. You are a somewhat appealing man at the moment.
Well, I
throw through a hole at yourself.
Let's play Soul.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm incredibly caffeinated, but
one thing that I've noticed with battle reports is that battle report length varies. You've got people like, again, I mentioned Doom and Darkness because I think he does the best type of battle report in his style, and that is a 20 to 25 minute traditional video. So most of his videos are about 20 to 25 minutes, and they're about the juicy stuff, or it might just be, you know, almost synopsises at the end of the turn. You've then got other people who might stream the whole game, whether it's, you know, above camera, again, like an honest war gamer. It could be more like a mini war gaming that literally films everything, but almost from like a gimbal perspective. And then you've got everything in between, right? You know, whether you're filming dice, you're not filming dice, whether you're filming priority rolls or no priority rolls, you're filming the movement of models and you're not. How on earth do you decide what you guys film? And is there some theory or some logic around what you're looking for in a battle report, essentially? I don't know who wants to take this question.
I'll take that one too. So I'll try to be as succinct as possible. Sorry. So what we do is there was literally, Jack mentioned earlier, there was a video from Mini Wargaming called How to Film a Battle Report. And they talk about just filming what's going on right now and then stopping the camera. And what you do at the end of the process is you slap all the clips on the timeline and then edit them together. You can just chop off the ends if you need to fix your transitions. But for the most part, that's your battle report. So we kind of perfected the art of doing that, where we're just filming just what's happening right now, and then we stop. And that's why we said Brent's the best at that, because his understanding of the game is so crisp. At any given moment, he knows exactly when to turn the camera off. And so editing a battle report for him is like, I almost do nothing. I edit the intro, I throw the time lapse together in the beginning, just do the table setup, and that's all the editing I have to do. I just drop everything else in the timeline and hit render, and it's perfect. Now, if there's a lot of mistakes, like I put the camera down a lot, and then cameras or the camera phones are stupid and they rotate. So like we go into portrait mode sometimes. So Jack and I are now 50-50 for the number of times that we do this and film in portrait mode, like ding dongs. And then I can't fix that in post, like and Brent doesn't do that. So the thing I'm going to here is that basically the editing, like when you're deciding what kind of battle report format you're going for, my recommendation is to make it as easy on yourself as possible. So let's examine Play on Tabletop for just a second here. That channel is achieving an incredible amount of success in the Warhammer space, as they should be. But in my personal opinion, I think that their end game product should be to sell that show to a network. I really think they need to find somebody who's going to put that show on television because of the quality of filming, the pacing, the story beats they have, the timing.
Even just think like the camera angles, right? Like they have the panning like you do, like a sports, right? Like they have just the quality is sensational. Yeah. And for me, the thoughts I have is like, what's the return on my investment? Like I can do that, but the cost of technology, the cost of time, is it worth it? And obviously, if I enjoy doing it, that's fine. But like, it's always like you've got to make a decision, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that basically the format for them is like we're aiming to be a TV show, and then the format for Doom and Darkness went out. I used to watch his like PowerPoint presentation style battle reports. But there's a good portion of people in Warhammer who just like go, oh, cool, battle report. They click it and they just let it run while they're painting. They're not even watching. They're just listening to what's going on. And if something cool happens and like people shout or they're like, oh, I got a thing, they look up. And so like we actually make a point to say what just happened if we roll dice, and we'll say, oh, I got a 5 to 6. right? Or whatever it is. Or, oh no, I missed. Like, we'll say this thing for the people who are just listening, which is I don't know, I would say about 50% of the people who actually watch the entire battle report aren't actually watching. It's just running while they're doing other stuff. So like it's whatever's easiest for you as an editor. I gave this advice to BulldogHammer Gaming when he was starting out. He's like, he had some questions about editing, and his first battle report was amazing. He had like 4 cameras set up in different angles, 2 stationary cameras, 2 fixed cameras, and 1 handheld, and 1 overhead. It was just, but all the cutting and editing you have to do at the end of it, if you're spending more time than you played doing the editing, then you're going to hit a burnout point, or you're going to need to spread that work across other people. That's why really big YouTube channels hire people to do editing for them, because they don't have it in them to do it anymore. They have they're too busy doing other stuff. Especially
they just do what I do, and I just go live and hope for the best.
Yeah. Well, that's Twitch and streaming. It's great.
I do 1 show a month, which is my emerging meta, which requires a record, and I've gotten to a point where I just do 1 take, and I just I don't want to do any editing, because I know that grinds my creativity, right? I don't want to pay somebody. I don't have the money to be paying for a full-time editor. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So if PowerPoint's easy for you, do PowerPoint. If you want to do the crazy editing and be the next level channel that takes on play on tabletop, go nuts. But they set the bar for you. I would advise, don't even make sure if that's the world you want to compete in, bring it, because they have a very high bar set for you.
I for one welcome my Age of Sigmar overlord who wants to move into that space. Yeah. I remember, I might get a Brent or Jack to see if they've got any other thoughts on that, but I remember Hayden Walker, the Elf Bro, who a friend of the channel, friend of mine, he creates battle reports when he created battle reports really differently. He had like a green screen tripod, not tripod, like the green screen that kind of went over his table, just the frame, not the actual green screen. But he put his iPhone and taped it up at the corner, but then used the time-lapse video. So basically his battle reports were the full battle, but it was kind of like sped up 5 times or 10 times. So it turned out you're just seeing all the critical moments, and then we can kind of create these little chapters that say, turn 1, what happened? Turn 2, what happened? And that was a nice way to, again, see a different style. So there's just so many options you can implement to your battle reports to make it interesting. I think just filming whole parts or filming parts, the options are there. Brent, anything you want to add to all of this?
Yeah, so like Shu was saying, some people, people just have different preferences for what they want out of a battle report. So yeah, you'll get people that maybe, hey guys, this is too long, it was kind of boring. They want a shorter video where, they just kind of want the highlights or the best moments to know what happened in the game. Or then you've got people that maybe don't like, even if, those types of really tightly edited videos, because they want something, to put on while they paint for 2 hours. So we just picked, I think, what we wanted to do. And then also a little bit about, thank you for saying that I'm good at this of starting and stopping the camera, but there's the other part too, before we press record. So even though we are doing a longer form battle report, we still wanted to make sure everything was intentional, because if you just left the camera running, then there's that moment of figuring out what you want to do. We did at least want to leave out that type of stuff. The game takes longer than the video is. So what we're doing is we're saying what we're going to do. So it could just be, I'm going to cast Mystic Shield with Alariel. Okay, great. And then somebody, I'm holding the camera, and then I go or hit record and go like this. And then, whoever's, if I'm playing against Shu, then he'll say, I'm going to cast Mystic Shield with Alariel. So basically just do whatever we said we were going to do. Then there's the dice roll. Oh, let me go ahead and try and unbind that. Oh, I didn't. There's a reaction, and then end the clip. Or you can string a couple together if they fit together well too, but typically we're just going to do one thing at a time.
There's a phenomenon that happens at that moment I call camera flummox, where the camera turns on and your brain leaves the room. And so many times I've said, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then I forget one of those steps and I don't do it. And Brent stops the camera and is like, so That was a good take, but you didn't do the thing you said you're going to do. Do you want to try again?
I do it all the time when I start the show. Like, I do awesome prep, right? We spend 5 or 10 minutes before the show. I hit record and I go, what's the show again? And like, I've got to remind myself in the moment, like, hey guys, it's, and I think I remember doing the women in Warhammer, and I think I accidentally said Warhammer in women. And I'm like, and I backtracked. But it happens, like your brain leaves you, which is, like,
no.
But I was like, oh, Jack, I wanted to call something you've mentioned as well. And there was a comment you put in the chat, and Jack has been really good. Jack's been really good, like engaging the chat here as well. But he made a really good comment that someone in the chat mentioned Guerrilla Mini Wargaming do great battle reports as well. So maybe I thought before I move into my other question, I'll just kind of drill down here for a second. Is have you found inspiration in other channels? And because for me, when I started my channel, I did a whole bunch of research and I looked at different people, both in Age of Sigmar and not in Age of Sigmar. And I'm like, what do they do? What do I like? What don't I like? And hopefully kind of create my version of what I want to make. So I'll start with you, Jack, first, then I'll go to Brent, then I'll go to Shu. Is there any particular channels at this point that you'd want to shout out who you've drawn inspiration from in some form or another?
So I have some like that are just AOS related and like but battle report related as well. Of course, Warhammer Weekly, Vince Ventrella and Tom. They I say they're my Age of Sigmar Sherpas. Like they guide me to the thing. He doesn't do as many videos anymore, but MC1 Gamer. I used to watch his videos a lot when I first got in AOS. And as far as battle report channels, I mentioned like competitiveness. Like, okay, we want to get stuff. Venomous Wargaming. We started around the same time, and he was on. This is what motivated me. He was on Warhammer Weekly for might have been for Flesh Eater Courts because he played a lot, and I was like, I want to be on Warhammer Weekly. So I was like, okay, let's they were like, okay, we were both battle report channels. What do I have to do to get on Warhammer Weekly? Because he was on there. And so we're getting there. And Josh from I think it's Masterpiece Miniatures. Like he was another guy, like, okay, like once we got past Venomous Wargaming, we were like, Masterpiece Miniatures, Josh. I loved a lot of stuff they did. And actually I got to meet him in person at Nova, and I beat him. But anyway, he said something about I remember he said something and I was like, okay, we have to beat that guy. And then I beat him twice. So take that, Josh. No, but he's a great guy. And so those are the channels that inspired me.
All your inspirations are just taking heads. Like, so like
still comes along and just decapitates you. And it's like, why are we competing? This is not fun. Yeah, it's
so like what I think about like battle reports as far as like for me, what's the purpose of battle reports? Like Jack, earlier you said like you think they're better for newer players, and I agree, but for a different reason. Is that to me like a battle report is getting to see the whole game in action. I mean, like the whole game. I mean, like the models are painted. You've built your own terrain. You're playing with your friends and you're playing the game. It's seeing everything come together. So yeah, channels like like GMG or Mini Wargaming, just seeing the armies that they had. Maybe Guerrilla Miniatures Gaming more so because like all of those models like that Ash was playing with, like that stuff that he painted. Like I'm quite certain that's like terrain that he made. So that's seeing all of his hobby come together and then using that as inspiration of like, I want to have all that cool stuff too, especially if you're starting out or if you're like me and you just kind of struggle to produce like on the hobby end. That becomes like kind of an idyllic version of Warhammer. Is like if you're on your journey of, if you are getting started, once you get to a point in your journey where, you have a painted army, you've learned how to play the game, you've made terrain, this is what you're ideally aiming for. It's at least a version of what you could get excited about. And I saw this question when you had asked the Twitter chat, like if we were inspired by like White Dwarf battle reports, and that was like the first thing that got me excited about Warhammer is is like, I think when Vampire Counts like came out for or got updated for 6th edition, that there was a battle report with Skaven and Vampire Counts in there to show off like what they did. And me just like getting into the game at that point, reading that battle report and looking at the pictures of the models on the table, that was like, oh man, when I get to that stage, like this is what it's going to look like. My gutter runners are going to charge into the side of a black coach and destroy it with poisoned weapons. Like that's going to be so cool. So that's what I've taken from other battle report channels. And for 40K, tabletop tactics is obviously really cool. But especially like, I know we want to do more narrative type of cohesive stuff. So I've been trying to, like, I've been going back to a lot of like their campaigns and trying to get inspired of like how to do, you know, the Age of Sigmar versions of some of the narrative stuff they do.
Sure, anything you'd want to add to that? And I'm hearing some, and this is obviously not about shout outs. It's you know, one, acknowledging people who have paved the path before us, but two, I'm hearing that it's about go do your research, go look at what you like and what you don't like. Look outside of Age of Sigmar. When I was doing this, I looked at beauty videos. I watched Twitch streamers. I watched video gamers, and I'm like, and Magic the Gathering, and I'm just like, how do I bring my concept to life and get all these ideas, get it in like, you know, the gumbo that Jack was talking about at the start of the show, and just like, how do I make my own concoction of what my vision is? Let's not try to just be another Warhammer Weekly. Let's not just try to be another version of something. How do I bring it to life? The process of ideation. Sure. Anything else you'd want to add?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, just as you mentioned there, I draw a lot of inspiration from the other people doing battle reports, and also I watch people like who are just super into their craft. Like Peter McKinnon, a good photographer, is a great cinematic style of storytelling in his instructional. So there's storytelling, and then it's informative as well. So like a good example of that in the wargaming space is Miscast Terrain. His quality of photography tells a visual story at the same time he's being informative, which I think is just like, it sets him apart from everything else. But it's funny when you look at all the things, like you mentioned earlier when I said, oh, I like this streaming software. You got set up your coaches and don't steal my stuff. You're joking, of course, but I'm like, dude, we're a battle report channel. That's all we do is steal other people's ideas and then run with them. I mean, it's the battle report. I feel like battle report channels at this point are such a niche thing, and we influence each other so much that all ships are raising from this tide. So when one of us becomes more popular, it's helping all of the other channels out. And we're with people like Miniac and Squidmar, who are hitting in the 500,000 million view level stuff for Warhammer content. That is like unheard of prior to just a couple of years ago, before they came around. And they're drawing inspiration from those cinematic storytellers like Casey Neistat and Peter McKinnon, that kind of thing.
So here's a funny story for you. Was it about 12 months ago? Age of Sigmar, Emil, approached me, and he's like, hey man, I want to do a video with you. Now at the time, Sigmar was under 1,000 subs. And I was like, I think I was about 2,000 subs at the time, or like 1,500. Sigmar and I were about the same level. And I think we had set up this video in like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. But it was funny because at the time we filmed the video, he actually surpassed me, and he was in like the 5,000 or 6,000 mark. He had like a really successful, I think it was like an ultramarine video. But I remember him telling me, he's like, man, I was a bit nervous, or I was a bit uncomfortable asking you to do a collaboration because you were bigger than me. And then the irony of it all is, you know, it just takes that one video and, you know, you've gained a whole bunch of awareness because you get the momentum. And that's all it takes. one video that and this is kind of why I mentioned earlier about the likes and the comments, is that helps promote YouTube. And YouTube's like, hey, people are enjoying these videos. We're going to actively promote it. We're going to recommend it to other people. And that snowball really gets you the eyes from people outside of your subs. So that for us helps. You guys are hilarious. If you guys watch this, if you guys are listening to this on the podcast later, do yourself a favor, pause it and watch this on YouTube, because we're doing some shenanigans here.
I'm not participating in these antics. Oh, Jackie said shenanigans.
Hit him.
The Ember Vault. That's Brent right there.
Well,
What did I do?
rapid fire question. This is coming from Razor Tree. Razor Tree, Jack, what's it like being the sexiest man in Age of Sigmar?
Well, I'm trying to get back there. I think season 1, Path to Glory, when I was doing jujitsu and in shape, that was way more sexier than I am now. But no, you got guys like the guy who does, NashCon. That dude's sexy.
Oh, yeah, Dave Griffin.
Oh my gosh, got a crush on
Avo
him.
Shorts is pretty hot as well. He's
Look at those baby blues over there. Look at them. You should see Sexy Shoe. Go to his Instagram. He has some goth pictures of himself when he has the.
Well, pause. I've got a goth question coming out for him in a second. So before I get to that though, Brent, does your beard give you superpowers?
I think it gives me. I think I draw all my narrative from it. I think like when somebody's like, "Well, what's this Fire Slayer name?" and I'm just like, Durin Grimner. And I can just pull words out of my beard. That's the superpower it gives me.
And Shu, don't go anywhere because I want to know about your goth cane.
I'm still here.
Are you pulling goth books out of your closet?
Yeah.
Okay, so as like we said, there's a bit of an age difference between Shu and I, and early in our friendship, I just got to look in that game closet and I found like a 80s Ninja Turtles role-playing game book, and I was like, "What is this?" And then I learned that he had lots of weird like gaming books, and then he was like, "Let me tell you about Walden books in the early 90s," and he just regaled all these tales that I found very fascinating. And if anybody'd seen our sketch about Age of Sigmar ASR, and he's like tapping on weird gaming books.
It's
I feel like it was definitely because we had a conversation about like, Shu, why do you have all these weird books?
Do you like Warhammer?
Do you like
Yeah.
Have we ever seen Brent without his hat on?
Yeah, I'm going to come to that in a second, Brent. Well, here comes the channel exclusive now. All right, so people in the chat want to see have we ever seen Brent without a hat on?
Do we want some lockdown here? Because we got lockdown here.
Oh, look at that!
By the way, I did tell Jack that I got a fresh haircut for you guys because that's how important this video is to me. But before we kind of go there, guys, goth cane, Shu.
Okay. So here's a funny story. I slept on a friend's couch and herniated a disc in my spine, and I legit needed that cane to stand upright.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, I had spine surgery about 5 years later, but I was in excruciating pain to stand upright. So
Really?
Yeah. So for a while, I carried a goth cane in my goth years because I had a crappy back.
But it did fit. It did fit with the aesthetic.
Yeah. I mean, it was a tux with tails, for heaven's sake.
Jack, this one, as I said, Jack, this one might be for you. This one comes from Excalibur, Nick or Nick Excalibur, and it's an interesting one. And I love all your thoughts on this. Where does showing tactics in the game rank in comparison of like the narrative and the flow? And I think that is important because do you want to go super competitive? Do you want to have a narrative? Where do you want to be both? We talked about the audience, like how important is all of this kind of as you tell your story as a battle report?
For showing tactics for us, like it's probably lower on the tier, because we're like, there are games where I'm like, all right, I have to turn off my I want to win brain, and like, because there was something like watching the other battle report channels, I found out what I didn't like, and that was people being a sore loser. And so I have to take away like this doesn't represent. It kind of does represent you, because I've had guests on and they're like, oh, I don't want to lose because then people on the internet will think I'm bad. You have to throw that away. You have to throw away your ego. I'm like, well, like I wouldn't do this, like if we were at a tournament, but I'm going to charge this unit because it's the coolest thing to charge, and it's gonna thing. So we're not a tactical channel unless Brent's playing, of course. He didn't charge Gotrek with Archeon. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? This is the best thing. You're like, no, I'm gonna make sure that he can't move.
I did it later.
I'm gonna
I had to kill a bunch of stuff first.
Yeah, Belacqua is gonna say.
Yeah, I didn't want to like turn 2, be like, here's our new Slaves of the Darkness like pre-release video, and then just like throw Archeon into a blender.
Yeah, a WWE sports entertainment stuff. Sometimes I'm like, well, that wouldn't be as cool and fun. It's not going to cause as many like laughs. And like, oh, like you mentioned something earlier. Sorry to jump in, but I love showing dice rolls, because when you roll 12 dice and you get 7 6s, and just oh my God, can you believe that, of dice rolls? That's why I'm a big fan of that.
Lots of cheers.
Yeah,
it's a very sports thing, right? It's the anticipation of the touchdown or the goal. It's that lead up, right? And you guys were mentioning the Mystic Shield from Alariel, for example, and to go a little bit further as well, it's like declaring the intention is that Alariel needs to roll this on a 6. So you build up the anticipation of the dice roll, and then you see it's a 5, and it's like, no, because not everyone knows the dice roll. Not everyone knows why this is important. So. And I think that suspense is part of the fun, and that's probably why I enjoy live battle reports. I enjoy all battle reports, don't get me wrong, but I will tune in when there is a live tournament, because I want to see the anticipation like a sports match.
Yeah, I agree. That's something we all agreed that we liked seeing. And then like when that really pays off too. So there's like a video where I'm playing Gloomspite Gits, and I teleport all of the fanatics 9 inches away. And I guess they don't really have any bonus to charge, but it's like, all right, here they go. And then you roll double 1s for the charge, like to set up something really like, ooh, if fanatics charge you turn 1, you're not going to like this, but how about I roll the exact opposite of that? Like the worst thing I could possibly roll. And that happened. And like, that's the type of stuff, that like, you don't even have to think about like, oh, what's going to be exciting, what's going to be fun. The dice do that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so people in the chat have asked about, like how much of it how much of the dice rolling do you capture? And like, do you need to capture the dice rolling of every unit that runs? Probably not. Do you need to capture every dice roll for the spells? Probably not. But it's like these critical moments, and again, depending on if you're trying to do a short battle report or a long battle report, these critical moments, not just capturing the dice roll, but explaining what it means, or building up the anticipation and getting me invested. Like, I want you to charge, because if I know the fanatic, like I don't know, let's say I'm new to goblins and I don't know what fanatics do. And you're like, man, if these goblins hit the 9-inch charge because I've teleported with Hand of Gork, they're going to go in, they fight first, they're going to do D6 attacks with, hitting on 4s, winning on 3s, and do so much damage. And then you roll, you're like, no, what am I going to do? And people get invested. And then like the next time you put fanatics in a different unit, they almost like, they're like, oh, maybe he's going to do it this time. And, you can kind of like build this narrative over time.
Yeah.
I mean, I like showing all of the dice rolls, like even runs and stuff too. Cause like a run roll by itself, isn't that interesting, isn't that big. But like, if you're not, it's the kind of the stuff that you don't expect, that like, well, what if the same unit, like 3 or 4 turns in a row rolled a 1 to run? At that point, cause we ad-lib a little bit of the game of, even if it's not like a narrative game, we're still questioning like, what is wrong with this unit? Like, why do they keep rolling a 1 to run? And like, so kind of looking forward to, like, we're looking to do some campaign stuff in the future. And that's even like more opportunities for that type of stuff, is like, what if through multiple games, like a pattern in the dice that you don't expect winds up showing up? And then, you have this like perception of like, oh yeah, my Hearthguard Berserkers, you mean the ones that roll, like can't roll more than a 2 for any run roll ever? Like that's to me, like you have potential there that if you're not filming every dice roll, you might miss.
The
Yeah, I
dice
still
rolls
get.
on the
I still
narrative.
Shoot, Jack.
Shoot.
Okay, the dice rolls inform the narrative for me. Like the most tactical and narrative moment I've ever had were the same moment, and it's where I said, "Okay, I've got one chance to win this game. Here's what's going to happen," and I just let the camera roll. I didn't even talk about, we said we talk about what we're going to do first, and I let the camera roll. And I said, "Hey, Brent, my bombardier is going to waste this dwarf in hand-to-hand, and then he's going to walk over here and shoot this dwarf in his face, and I'm going to win the game." And
real quickly, I did see a question on your Twitter chat that was like, favorite moment from a bat rep. So I'm
that was literally the question I had loaded up next. So
okay.
Ruin Christmas, Brent.
I'm just saying.
Just
this is my favorite moment in any of our videos. So
all right. So the question is from the Twitters is actually I think this is my question. This wasn't Twitter, but what is your favorite moment from Battle Report? Should continue.
Okay. I guess this is going to consume my favorite moment from Battle Report.
You get two of them. You're telling mine, and then you get your own.
Oh, I see. So the bombardier is not great in combat, but somehow he managed to waste that dwarf in hand-to-hand. And then
okay, never mind. You didn't get it right.
Did I not get it right?
No, because so there's four. Look at this. Okay, so this is my favorite now. You get 4 models on the board left. You have an Arch Warlock that is just out of the game. There's nothing you can do. There's 1 Hearthguard Berserker. There's a Warlock Bombardier, and there's an Auric Rune Master on an objective. And the only way that you can take if you take the objective, you win. But the only way you can take the objective is if you kill the Auric Rune Master, who has 5 wounds left. And the whole game, you've been firing the Doom Rocket and missing every time. So again, like you've built this narrative to be like, Doom Rocket, oh, I can't roll more. Like he rolled a 1 every time. So we're just joking like, man, this guy sucks. Like, what is he doing with the Doom Rocket? But then it comes down to, you get to shoot the Doom Rocket, or you get to move within range of the objective, and then you get to shoot the Doom Rocket because you're not going to kill him in close combat. The only way you're going to kill him is with the Doom Rocket. And he does. And so he's like 4 inches away from the Auric Rune Master and then just goes and shoots a missile into his face. He dies, and Shu wins.
Yeah.
It's the best ending to any of our games.
That was
and
it.
I don't know. It's my favorite.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks for taking that one over. There was a lot of details I was missing in that one.
Okay. It's just
just to go into my favorite Warhammer moment here, it would have to be the game where we had proxied what is the 40k terrain that's up on gantries? It was like a skirmish game that came out for a little bit, but then then skirmish actually came out. It was the Shadow War. Yeah. So a GW had set up Shadow War Armageddon terrain so that it was all over this table, and we had pretended it was a Skyport for Duarden. That and we set up a little rule that if you wanted to cross between the platforms, you could roll a dice, and if you get a 1, you fall. And so I'm playing small Sylvaneth army versus Warherd. My Tree Lord tries to step over a tiny gap and just falls, and Brent does this walk forward, fall like a tree motion immediately, and it was just hilarious that he's just out of the picture. And then the Gorgon steps up and does the same thing. So then we're losing it, laughing about what it looked like for people on the ground to see how this Tree Lord come down from the sky, and then a Gorgon a few minutes later. And just that right there, just the mechanics of the game informed the narrative, and that's my favorite Warhammer moment there.
But that one wasn't a bat rep, though. Do you have a favorite bat rep?
True.
No, I don't remember this video.
What are they doing?
I just did the battle report right here. In this chat. That was
right.
That
was it. There's a picture of it on his Instagram. There we go. That counts.
Yeah.
I have a couple, 2 things. Want to bring up about memorable things happen, people still bring up Cordell, which was my slaughter priest who kept rolling ones every time he did a prayer, and it still gets brought up. But as far as like one thing is, it was a sketch thing that it was our Soul War sketch, and just that ingredients. Everybody come up with a great idea. Oh, but what if we did this? And that sketch actually made me realize, like, don't try to look cool. Like, we're not here to look. I was like, but if I do that, I'll look silly. I'm like, no, we're all looking silly. Because Shu had to point out, like, because I was like, there's just something in the sketch. I'm like, I wouldn't say it like that, because no, we're all buffoons. We're all. It's not about looking cool or something like that. And so I love that sketch because we all came up with different ideas. What if we did this? What if we did this? And I loved it. We had Doug in it as well. And a lesson I learned, it was our Nagash versus Stormcast, the shootcast list. And off camera, I was just I was QQing. I was crying. I was like, oh man. And I won the game. And Brent let me know that. Brent let me know that me doing that and I was like, oh, I'm not doing it on camera. But Brent let me know, like, hey, man, he's just like, hey, it's not. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Even though, it's just like, that was a game where I'm like, I wanted my shootcast to get shown off to the world. This is a list I made up. And hey, everybody check this out. But I'm like, Nagash is supposed to die turn 1. This is not working out the way I wanted to. But in Brent, it was just Brent.
He died turn 2.
Yeah, he died turn 2.
The real talk behind that game. And I think that was a good turning point for us too, is like, if people talk about, like, oh, it looks like you guys, are having fun, and we genuinely are, but we genuinely are. But there was still moments where we had to learn to do that. And that's like curating your game, but also, curating your experience with your opponent. So it's like, even though we were making a video and on camera, it looked like everything was just like, then behind the camera, it was like, hey, we got to talk about how we have a more enjoyable experience. Cause it's like, obviously you were, frustrated in the beginning there, and had to learn from that. And then I had to express too, that it was like, man, I didn't think I could have lost that game any harder. But yeah, so.
No, I like it. And, Jack mentioned earlier about, leaving the ego at the door, because it's hard, right? Like, as a personality, people are judging you. And, if Jack is, and it kind of ties in nicely to one of the comments in the chat talking about, if a game is kind of like at its end by turn 2, do you essentially abandon the game, or do you play on? And, if something doesn't go well, and, I'm a competitive player, Jack mentioned, for example, he's done really well on the tournament scene, and he does these silly things, or he tries to play out a story, or, tries to make it an even matchup. There is that perception, or that risk that people are going to judge, you as a competitive player to you, the narrative battler on the Rerolling Ones. And, it's almost like you do have to leave the ego on the door. You don't have to take it personally, and you hope that through the entertainment value, people see the battle report not as, I'm not a very good gamer, he's a great gamer, but rather we're telling great stories through miniature wargaming.
Mm-hmm. We cut it off when we know somebody can't come back in points. So like, what if we're off camera, then we're like, okay, let's calculate this. Let's even in the craziest scenario, is it possible for this person to win? In that case, we're probably going to keep playing. But as far as like 2-turn games, there's been a handful where, even if we think that like, this is going to be curated, this is going to be fair, there's like, there is an older game too, or I'm playing Warherd and Jack, you're playing Slanesh, and it's just, it was over, and it was real fast. But something like that, I think there's, even if that's not ideal, like, we don't restart, there might still be some value or entertainment in that. Or I want to say, one of my favorite games is when I play Fire Slayers and Jack, you play like new terrifying Slanesh. That game's a complete shutout, but it's a shutout for, at the time, triple keeper of secrets. Like it's funny because you like look at the comments that haven't finished the video and they're like, oh, I know where this is going. And then it's spectacularly the worst dice rolls I've ever seen. And Jack just loses his like all of his keepers of secrets. He's just like, I don't know what's happening. And I'm just laughing the whole time. But even then, so it's like a short game like that in that kind of circumstance, like that was, I think, the best outcome that game could have had.
It like Slaanesh is an interesting thing because I have a beautifully painted Slaanesh army by Crankle Gamer. It's great, but that is a hard army to take the foot off the gas on. Mm-hmm. And so it's like trying to play a curated game because there's Slaanesh fans out there. You're like, oh, like it's tough to play them because they're like they've been nerfed now. So I think we can give it another shot. But at the time it was like super tough to put them on the channel because it's just
to see them just get squashed was hilarious.
Yeah, that was.
And then people are just going to get abusive in the chat as well.
Yeah,
I remember 2 years ago, I think it was in 2018. So I was a part of the commentary team. So I got invited to live broadcast the Australian Masters, which is essentially the best of the best invitational league, an annual event. So I was it was myself and Travis. We were doing the tournament. We were live commentary, and we obviously had a schedule for the weekend. And for the first couple of rounds, you've got to curate. Because I've got a 9-hour schedule or a 12-hour schedule, I'm just not going to put up a game that's going to end in turn 1, turn 2, or turn 3. You want to be able to try to get a game that is most likely going to go the full round. So it'll be interesting, or they're matched up very fairly. So I think it's almost like you can lean into the game 2, game 3. You don't overextend and try to drag it out to the full 5. But at the same time, it's thinking about, is this going to be a good matchup for my audience? And if there's a complete mismatch, maybe it's not a battle report that you want to film, or maybe you want to try to find a way to spice it up so that, maybe you do give away a priority roll or something, because otherwise it's just going to be, it's not an enjoyable video as Slaanesh turn 1 steam rolls an army that clearly had no chance of winning this game. As an example.
Sure, you got anything?
I got nothing. I'm so distracted. There's like kids pounding on my door and screaming upstairs. So I apologize if you all can hear this.
I hear nothing. I'll add my favorite battle report moment, and I'll ask a few more questions. We'll kind of bring it home. My favorite battle report moment was my debut on Warhammer TV, where I played at Blood and Glory round 1. It was myself, which was a mixed order, essentially Cities of Sigmar, but it was mixed order, versus a Clan Pestilence. And I'll never forget it because I'm playing in England, and all of my friends, all of my community is watching this game on Twitch. And turn 1, I take the turn. I have this Carmine Dragon, which is a wonderful Forge World model, and I buff it up to the 9s. My Battle Mage casts a spell that's no longer in the game, which essentially heals it, which it was unwounded, but it gave it a 6-up after save. I then used my Lore Master to make it to reroll hits and reroll wounds. This Carmine Dragon is just coming in as an absolute tank. And it flies up into a pack of Plague Monks, when Plague Monks were really good. And it's a 3-inch charge. And I roll a 3, which is normally okay. Except Plague Monks have a little banner that calls them -1 to charge. Oh. So my Carmine Dragon doesn't get to charge. And this is also in a time when only your general could use a command point.
Oh, no.
So this Carmine, and it was funny because all my friends, I checked my phone later, and they were like, you can't fail this charge, don't fail this charge. And like, of course I failed the charge. The Plague Monks come in and absolutely annihilate this Carmine Dragon. But then right at the end, because we were playing, I think, Scorched Earth, and I was losing, but it was like I was at the bottom of turn 5. I burnt his objective, and on a 5 or a 6, I was going to win the game. On a 4 and a 3, I was going to draw it. 1 and 2, I lost it, and I rolled a 6. But that was a game that like I was down for the count, and it was against Dan from Priority Roll. It was an awesome game, but again, it just never, it was one of my favorite games. But that's the cool thing about documenting as well, is you can always kind of go back into the archives. You can have some fun.
Yeah, that's the best thing. It's you have the story. You have that story. Like I rolled a 3, and you have proof. And like, you remember when you rolled the 3? That's the coolest thing. When you like,
People
you
still
have
give me
like,
stuff.
That's the other part. Like, I don't have a video of the guy in the trench coat showing up and, you know, Jeff from the future saying fire 27 inches. But like when you do battle reports, now I have Shu's Warlock Bombardier blowing up my Orc Rune Master to win the game with a Doom Rocket. Like, I have that forever.
Mm-hmm. It's very nice. And you are able to connect with other people. And like, do you remember that? I remember that. And you have the same thing. And it, like, as being a competitive player, I a side note, when going to tournaments and playing people who enjoy the channel and are fans of the channel, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, this is not going to be, this isn't a channel game. Because I play unfun lists. I'm like, dude, I played this corn player, big fan of the channel, LVO. I'm like, my list is super designed to, like, it's not going to be fun for you. And so I'm going to kill your 3 bloodthirsters before you get to go. And it's just, and I'm like, but one thing, like, what made me a big fan of Doug from 2 Plus Tough, he did this video in the beginning where he said, you know what, when I play, I'm like, if I see my opponent's not having fun, I'm like, hey man, you want to go grab a beer? Because this game, like, when you get into that level where you're like, it can be unfun. And so that's why I really enjoy these guys, because they always make it fun.
This might tie in nicely. So going back to, let's imagine you had a trench coat and you go back in time. What would you tell yourselves who are just starting up in the battle report space, whether it's through your experience, whether it's through, you know, doing so much great work in the community, and, you know, you've got lots of fans now and all the money and all the fame and the glory and the women and all that stuff. And, you know, you guys are now, you've now made it. But like, if you were to rewind time and go back and tell that person to do a 27-inch, not a 14-inch, what experience would you give to yourselves? What advice? What sage advice? Maybe I'll go Brent first, then Shu, then Jack.
I would tell myself to temper my expectations about skirmish, because I got way too jazzed about that skirmish campaign that we did. And like we said, like, we do things for fun, you know, like, we're not trying to, you know, be the biggest YouTube channel. Like, we're doing this because we enjoy it. And then we got motivated because other people enjoyed it. And there's enough people that were like, but you tell yourself that, but then when there's a little bit of a disconnect, like, how come as many people are watching this video? Or then people are like, skirmish sucks. Like, that starts to get to you a little bit. So I remember getting like way too into it. And this is not to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but like, yeah, I was super jazzed about that. I was like, I'm going to make all this lore about like this frozen city that is haunted by the night haunt. And I was talking to one of my friends, and he played me, and like, nobody noticed this in the comments, and I guess I understand why. I didn't know it either. I was like, what should that city be called? And he's like, you should name it Arendelle, because it's this like name of this mystical like Norwegian legend of this like frozen city. And I was like, that's awesome. And behind text, he is laughing at me because apparently that is the city from Frozen, the Disney movie. And so I'm writing this like cryptic lore about like, and this is the fall of the kingdom of Arendelle. And I say this like in the little like lore bit that we did, and nobody knows. They're like, is that the city from Frozen? And so then halfway through the campaign, my friend is like, he just sent me like the Frozen wiki for the city, and I was like, you suck. No. And so then we're like, okay, we have to try and like roll with this. So then like Shu, one of your kids had like an Olaf doll, and we like put it in the background, and we don't say anything about it. So if anybody caught that, then great.
Nobody watched. So
yeah,
like,
and then it did become kind of an ongoing joke of like, oh man, we put a lot into this, and like I'm terrible at getting stuff painted, and I was like, power painting Night Haunt, and I probably could go back in time in a trench coat and tell myself to chill out.
I'm losing it over this because like we had put so much effort into the planning and painting, and we made terrain and all this effort for writing the lore, and we're gonna play the skirmish campaign. The skirmish book just came out, Strike While the Iron's Hot, and we'd gone from like 10,000 views to 1,000 views. What's going on, everybody? You still there?
Brent, if it makes you feel any better, I remember downloading what was that vampire movie that was more of like a rom-com back in the day? Whatever, like it was that romantic vampire. It was very super popular back in the day.
Twilight?
Yeah,
Wait.
Twilight. That's it.
Okay,
I remember downloading Twilight and getting really excited about it. And my wife looks at my computer and says, "You know, that's not like what you think. It's not like vampire or like it's not like a real vampire movie." I'm like, "Oh." So it makes you feel better. Like we've all done that in some capacity. It's just that you've gone to another level.
Hey, fun fact: the state of Washington, where we live, Forks, Washington, is where Twilight is supposed to take place, and it's a real out of the way like seaside town. And for years, they got a lot of tourism because people were like, "We want to go to the place that Twilight is supposed to be from," and they're just like, "We got Twilight everything." Real embarrassing. Not a sustainable economy.
I mean, Coach gets that. He's from New Zealand. They got all the Hobbit stuff.
Sure.
He's from New Zealand. Is it where?
It's the same, right? It's like
You live in Mexico, right? You live in Mexico, yeah?
Canada, United States, it's whatever. So
whatever. It's over. It's down there somewhere.
People come to that's another discussion.
I just want to share a little anecdote here. We had noticed that the viewership count nosedived, but we were committed to finishing the skirmish campaign no matter what. So we actually started to rip on ourselves in the intro a little bit. So we have each of the skirmish games. If you go back and watch them, the intros connect. They tell a whole story. And there's one part where Jack and Brent are carrying my body upstairs because I had died in this story. And Jack said, it was Brent. He said, "Just admit it, Jack. You're trying to destroy the channel." And he's, "Ruin the channel? It wasn't my idea to do a skirmish campaign."
There were some of the coolest intros. Shu dressed up as a juggalo is in the skirmish intros. People, like, you owed yourself to go just watch the intros.
I did like that because I do enjoy ICP. There's I do like ICP. I did like when I went to America. I did buy a bottle of Fago.
Dude, he pours the Fago out and it like splashes.
And not a drop goes out of the glass. It's
but
the Great Malenko is just a fire. It's a fire album. Like
it's this moment that I've just completely lost all of my subs. I'll have to read Dark Carnival here.
Water magnet. I love that you get the line wrong too. You say water magnets. Whoop whoop.
Go watch the skirmish intros, people. They're great. Shu, I think you're next.
Yeah, please, Shu. I actually have completely lost my train of thought. Shu.
Yeah.
Go back in time in a trench coat.
What do I do if I tell young Shu what to do here? I would say pick 40K. I'm kidding. I love it.
Jeez.
Hot takes, everybody.
Dissent in the channel. We got some dissent here.
Ninth edition's coming out. We can do both.
Yeah. We did see your April Fools, which was a cracking video.
I'm working on 40K armies. I love 40K. It's in my blood. But it's just I have a billion Age of Sigmar armies in this case here. I'm all in. So yeah, I'm not gonna pay more.
You're not as bad as Doug. You've only transitioned from one game to another. That 6 out of the games.
This comment says ICP don't believe in magnetizing their mini.
I don't know where to go with that. Jack, is there anything that you tell yourself? I'm going to get back on track. Jack, what would you tell yourself if you're going to put a trench coat on and
so back in time?
Yeah,
I would tell myself I don't need 8,000 points of Cities of Sigmar. So that would happen. I'd also give myself advice not to be lazy. I think right now we hit a period where we got lazy. And so it's like, oh, okay, we need to do this. And it was like, all right, you have a different, because if you see some of our sketches, there was this one we did where there's like the RNN news, we had green screens, it was like, this is hilarious. And now we're like, all right, you come through the door and say this, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do that. And then, it's fine. It's like, all right, we'll edit this, and like, Shu edit this out, and it's still in the video. There's a area where we got lazy. We're just like, well, let's put this out. And then that's why I thought we really needed Adepticon, just to recharge our batteries, meet people face to face, say, hey, people love what you do. Like, you're appreciated. There are Shu guys, there are Brent guys, all this stuff. And so I would go back and say, hey, tell Trump to call China and say, don't be sending people over here with your viruses. And so, no. But it was like, put out content you're proud of, rather than, we got to have a video this week, guys. And I'd also tell myself, get better at holding the camera. Like, look through the camera, don't look through the side, and make sure it's not sideways. I'm the worst camera guy. I'm like, get better at doing these small things, because if it becomes a habit, make it a habit. Like, you always do this. You always focus here, rather than, I want to be funny. What's the next? Like, it's funny, but you also want to put out a quality product that people aren't getting like vertigo from watching me hold the camera.
Yeah, I would say that would be, if I even went back in time and spoke to a little young coach, I would probably say the same thing, is that I remember reading a lot of stuff about YouTubing, right? And, some of the big advice they say is get a schedule, have a routine, stick to it, and just put out content. And you almost fall into a trap that you're just putting out content for the sake of putting out content, and it's not your best work. So I would probably say to myself, slow down, and find a rhythm, put something out there, try things, especially if in the early days, try things, see what works, think what doesn't work, play with a video editing software, try different things, because not a lot of people know you at the start. This is the time where you can fail, and you can fail hard and fast. Once I'm literally about to hit 5,000 subs, but if I fail, people see that at scale. So for me, it was better to find out where my niche was right at the start, and to read those comments and get those feedback and ask people for their comments. Like, what do you see? What do you want to see on the channel? What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? And take it with a grain of salt, because what people might want to see may not be what you want to do. So just kind of like stew on the ideas, I think, is what I would probably kind of take away. Jack's got some thoughts there. He's like, raising the people's eyebrow.
I agree.
All right. Well, I think I've got one more question I want to ask, unless you guys want to. Is there anything we want? Have we missed anything? Because I got one final question, and it's almost like putting on the trench coat and going into the future. Is there anything you want to add before we want to go into the future?
Future.
I think we're excited about the future. So
yeah, definitely, we're excited. There are things we had a lot of stuff planned, like before all this happened. Well, we can't go to each other's houses and record now, and so it's like,
so what next? What next? Put on the trench coat. Let's go to the future. Let's get our hoverboards, and let's when lockdown's done and we can all go back and hang out and hug and by the way,
that we were languishing a bit, and so we decided to put some real effort into planning out what we're going to do for 2020, and we're going to change the format quite a bit. The style of the battle report will be the same. We're still going to use points, but we're going to involve a lot more narrative stuff in there. And so Brent came up with this plan. Brent?
Sure. We'll also mention too, so Shu did the giving away a sequitur video, where it was like, hey, just comment what you'd like to see on our channel in the future. And then you could, win the sequitur that I painted. And then there's a lot of interesting and good suggestions in there where we wanted to take that, but we also wanted to figure out like Shu said, we're kind of languishing. Jack referred to it of we're getting kind of lazy. We did want to do something new that felt like leveling up the channel and getting something to get excited about again. So looking at that feedback, Shu had recommended, basically doing seasons of Rerolling Ones. And then I helped flesh that out of okay, well, what could that be? And essentially, it's going to be a narrative campaign, but the games individually, they're not going to be that much different than what we normally do, other than it will, for a series of games, it's going to be with the same army. So it's not going to be a completely new type of game every time. But if, so like we're planning on doing a 6-game series that's set in Akshi. So, but for that, like to make that interesting, even if we're just kind of playing these match play scenarios that we've picked, we made terrain specifically for Akshi. Shu took the lead on that. Yeah, there we go. So like we're going to have, a visual as we're exploring like what kind of rules are in Akshi, trying to look at like other parts of the game that maybe don't get used a lot. So it's a chance to experiment with those, but also a chance, back to the original idea of like, we're going to get the rules right. We know that that's never going to be perfect, but we think that we can deliver better games if we play a couple games in succession with the same army. Plus, there's going to be some motivation too, that we will want to try and win the campaign, and then there's a narrative that goes with that. So if you're watching kind of the whole series, you're going to hopefully get excited about what's happening from game to game, who's winning in the campaign, or sort of those stories that the dice are telling. So, spoiler, looks like Cordell is coming back. Is he going to roll as terribly as he did before? We're going to find out. And then kind of hoping, if this goes well, we'll see what we learn from this and do different ones in the future. If we liked this format, then we can make, new campaigns in other realms. And the other part too is, so I wrote a whole campaign pack for it, and we'll be releasing that for free for anybody that also wants to play this along with us. That, if they want to then share, that would be awesome if on our Facebook group or Discord, they're saying, oh, well, then when we played this scenario, and when I say scenario, I paired like a battle plan with a specific Realmscape feature. Then we want to hear you like what happened in your version of that. And then lastly, I think kind of the teaser release too. So the first season, the idea would be called the Ember Vault, where the story is going to be that there's a storm vault in Akshi that's been exposed by the Necroquake, and now everybody's trying to get inside. So what happens? We'll find out. So we're excited about coming back and trying to make that happen. We've been prepping for it for too long now. We were ready before, and
we were ready.
That sounds incredible. That sounds really cool. And I think about Soulbound now, the RPG. We've now got that whole great patch, that whole new map of Akshi, right? So now there's just so much more up for grabs. And you got Cities of Sigmar, like you've got Bright Spear, and you've got Ensor, and there's just all this stuff happening. I wonder if Soulbound RPG could get tied into that.
I already looked at the map and I was like, the Ember Vault is there. Like I already did that.
I love
That's
it.
not that important.
And I love the opportunity as well, not just to play match play games. And I don't know if this is in your plan. I'm sure it is in the grand plan. But all the battle tomes have all these amazing battle plans as well, where you've got ambushes, you've got deployment zones that aren't 50-50. There are different win conditions. So by putting that narrative perspective as well in a match play competitive environment, you can do some really cool storytelling, which just ties in perfectly to your channel. It's I'm very excited about seeing what you guys put out. That sounds like something that I think the chat will love.
Thank you. We're excited about it too. And I like my hope for it too is that it sort of walks that line between, if you're just tuning into a one-off Age of Sigmar battle report, it's not like, well, let me tell you the entire history of the Ember Vault. Like, no, it won't be like that. You're still just tuning into a game, but if you're watching the whole series, like you'll have an idea, more specifically what's going on, who are, the specific players or characters trying to take control of the Ember Vault. So hopefully that'll appeal to a range of people tuning into the channel.
I think it should. I've got a core belief that narrative and match play are not mutually exclusive. There is a middle ground. There is an absolute middle ground. We are here for the stories. We are here for the lore. You don't have to go 100% competitive and 100% narrative. Everyone is in this middle space somehow, and I think more storytelling in this space will just help unlock the narrative within us all. So this is brilliant. Jack, Shuey, anything you'd want to add to the future and like what we're going to see in the future from you guys?
I just don't want to take it for granted anymore. Like we just took so much for granted, assuming that we could just get together anytime and hang out and play Warhammer. Holy crap, man! The world is in a weird place, and I can't wait for it to get back.
True.
Yeah.
We were tight. Just because we all met online doesn't mean we're not tight.
Yeah, very tight.
Yeah.
Like I love Shu's like meeting. Like I love Shu. Love his wife. His kids are amazing. I love going over there, meeting all his kids, and like they're like part of like my family. I'll never not be involved in. And so you made friends for life through this hobby, and it's like a serious thing. Like I've gotten messaged about this. It's kind of it's not a topic I bring up at all, because it's just not something I live my life through. But being an inspiration to people of color to get into Warhammer, which is like I played Warhammer since I was a kid, and I never thought it wasn't for me. I'm like, but having people message me saying, "Hey, it's really cool that you're doing this," and I was like, "That's not my intent." But like Shu said something to me once, so like it's like what'd you say, Shu? But it was something about art or something like that, and I'm like, it wasn't my intent to inspire people of color, but like them seeing me play with like Warhammer, like saying like, "Oh, it's okay if I do it," because like that is the coolest thing I've like a side effect that I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's inspiring.
So Shu is looking forward to seeing us again and being warm, and Jack is looking forward to continuing to inspire people, and I am selfishly looking forward to writing a bunch of nonsense words about Ember Vaults and secret treasures in the Realm of Fire and make you guys play my horrible campaign.
Black space.
I feel warm and fuzzy at this moment. I think this is a perfect spot to end the show. I'm so #blessed that we could have this opportunity, because for anyone who may not know, in July, I was meant to fly over to America to play at Midwest Meltdown, and I was going to be in Seattle because one of my closest and dearest friends was going to get married in Seattle, and I was going to come and hang out with these guys, and I was so excited to play a game, and I'm going to miss that opportunity. So having you guys on the channel, having this discussion, it's the best that I'm going to get in the current world. But,
what happened? Did they break up?
No, they're already married. They got married in Australia, and now they're having the American wedding because grandma and that can't come, which is pretty fair. Like Australia, America is like a good 16-hour flight at the best in times.
Consider it.
Yeah,
and you go back in time too when you come to America.
Yes, but then when you come home, you come forward in time, and it's now 2:00 in the afternoon, where it's still 9:00 where you guys are. But the future is bright where I live. I am like 16 hours ahead, and it is wonderful. But Jack, Brent, Shu, this has been amazing. I've had so much fun with you guys. Is there any shout outs, anything you guys want to mention? If you don't follow these gentlemen, please, first and foremost, Twitter handles are in the episode description. Go over to Reroll Ones, smash the like button, subscribe. If you enjoy this stuff, do the Patreon stuff. If nothing more, just send a comment and tell them how much you enjoy their content. Give them some virtual love. Any shout outs, any recommendations, anything to take us home?
The shout out goes to you, man. Thank you so much for having us on. And you have a standing invitation to come and play with us whenever you're in the region. And if we make it down your way, we hope to see you there and to get a game in. And of course,
another shout out, Doug, 2+ Tough. He's like we've latched onto him. He's drug us up. He's the man. He's a good friend, and he's Doug from 2+ Tough. Go check out his channel if you haven't. If you haven't checked it out, what's wrong with you? And I
don't know, but I like the thank yous that you guys had. I agree. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, viewers. Thanks, the world.
Thank you, viewers, for sure. Thanks for watching.
Okay. See
I
you.
feel a little warm. Chat, thank you very much. Yes, feel the love. Please like, please subscribe, please do all that good stuff on Rerolling Ones. Thank you all very much. I have a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you all again very soon.
See ya.
Thank you, Gamer.